I was neglected, forgotten and left for dead. I was then saved by my father, who is both demon and a dragon named Azura the Photon Dragon. Now with my little dragon brother Ryu we will take on anything and anyone who stands in our way. The series name is What If Naruto Was Demon in Fairy Tale. So let's start the series. On an ordinary day in the small town of Ashiana, where everyone goes about their business, men and women who own a business sell their food, clothes and other merchandise to their customers and earn money, while families walk enjoying the nice sunny day in peace, children running around with either their siblings or friends with smiles showing that nothing can ruin their day. But sadly today isn't one of them. In a train station just outside of Ashiana town. Quickly this way! Exclaimed a young woman who is wearing armor and has beautiful red scarlet hair, as she ran out the station. Pant, wait up Urza! Yelled a blonde-haired girl who looked exhausted as she tried to catch up with the now named Urza. Hurry up Luigi! Exclaimed a pink-haired male who ran past the blonde young woman with a small blue cat that was flying behind him. The blonde girl grew a tick mark on her forehead. It's Lucy! Shouted the now named Lucy as another male ran past her. Stop fooling around Flamebrain, said a black-haired male as he catched up with the pink-haired boy, who looked at the raven-haired boy with annoyance. Fuck you Ice Cube! The pinknet responded, irritating the raven-haired boy who was about to respond back when another female with long straight raven hair who is currently holding a long katana with a white scabbard and red handle. Natsu, Gray! Shut up, the black-haired female said as she speed past them, catching up to Urza. Kagura! The now named Natsu and Gray said in unison as all five, including the cat, ran into town. Inside the town. Inside Ashiana town we find Urza, Natsu, Lucy and the rest of the other fairy tale members looking for a dark mage who is currently affiliated with a dark guild known as Eisenwald. They all split up and looked around town looking for their target. They met up in the heart of the town only to freeze at the horrifying scene that lay before them. In front of them were the members of Eisenwald they had been chasing on the ground dead. Blood painted the center of the town as bodies scattered all around, severed from head to toe. Some that weren't severed and still fully intact were pinned to the wall by multiple glowing swords made out of ether nano. In the center in a stack of dead bodies stood a male figure holding one of the member by the throat. The male figure is in their age as he stood 6 feet 1 inch tall. Lean and toned, built like Natsu with long black spiky hair that reached just past his neck with a single long bang on his forehead, older Zack Fair's hairstyle. He has light tan peach skin color like Kagura's along with a handsome face that went well with his glowing cyan blue eyes with a cat slit pupil. He wears a black high-collar sleeveless indigo shirt, with black baggy cargo pants that's tucked inside his matching black steel-toed boots, and black cloth covering his left leg, and on his chest is covered by 2 straps. That is currently held in place by a badge shaped of a dragon's head, and lastly a black scarf around his neck covering half of his face. Cloud Strife custom from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. After they described what he wears and look like, then their attention was drawn to his right glowing cyan blue arm that was covered with black reptilian scales from hand to shoulder, that he is currently using by holding the Dark Guild member by the throat, Nero's Devilbringer. On his left arm he's currently holding a long katana that has a white hilt with blue marking on it, and it is currently sheathed inside a blue scabbard with a long yellow ribbon wrapped close to the hilt. DMC4 SE Yamato. The mysterious male figure tightened his hold on the last member of Eisenwald, who is now trying to struggle and escape the young man's grip. I won't ask again, Aragorn, what's your guild planning to do with the flute? The young man said emotionlessly as the Eisenwald member began to speak. Fuck you! Aragorn said as he continued to break free. The young man looked at him coldly, defiant to the very end. Very well, goodbye Shinigami Aragorn, the young man said. But before Aragorn could say anything, the pressure on his throat began to increase as crushing bones could be heard from all. The members of Fairy Tail could only watch in horror as the mysterious man continued to crush the assassin's throat, who was struggling to breath until they heard a sickening sound that echoed throughout the center of town. Crunch! Aragorn's eyes rolled at the back of his head as his body fell limp. After Aragorn died by his hands, the mysterious man then threw his body to the side without care as he began to walking away. During all this entire time the members of Fairy Tail shook out of their shock as they glare at the man retreating form. Feeling their rage directly aimed at him, the mysterious young man stopped in his tracks as he turned his head around and looked at them with his emotionless cyan irises. Natsu, Urza, Gray and happy, it's been a long time, he said emotionlessly as he then sets his sights at Kagura. Namikaze, he said coldly, causing the five named confused at first. But then they now got a better look at him. They carefully looked closer until their eyes widened in shock. And then Naruto, they all said in unison as the now named Naruto clapped his hands. You remember me? How touching, he said emotionlessly when he then saw Kagura walking towards him. Whatever Kagura was about to say was cut off, when a cyan blue beam blasted between them, causing her to jump back. Surprised by the sudden display, all the members of Team Natsu tracked where that came from as they all looked up in the sky to see a little dragon who was bigger than happy, glowing cyan blue dragon body shape, with dark blue armor on its body and a red crown like horn on his head and the same irises as Naruto's. The little dragon lowered himself down onto the ground in front of Naruto, growling at them. Never leaving his gaze at them, Naruto began to speak. Ryu, did you find which direction Kageyama took? He asked the now named Ryu, who then looked at Naruto, nodding. He went up north, bro, the little dragon said. Nodded at his brother. Naruto then closed his eyes as cyan blue ether nano dragon-shaped wings appeared behind his back, raising him up from his feet. Opening them, he then looks towards his ex-guildmates. I would like to stay and have a 5-year family reunion with you, but me and Ryu have a job to do. With that said, both Naruto and Ryu flew off north, hoping to catch the last remaining Eisenwald member, leaving them flabbergasted. How does he have magic? Last time I remember he didn't have any, said Kagura as she watched her oldest brother fly off. The others couldn't say nor give her an answer as they too do not know. Breaking out of her shock, Urza looked on to the others. That doesn't matter how he has magic, we have to get there before Naruto does. The others nodded their heads in agreement as they ran towards the direction Naruto took, hoping to get there before him and stop him from killing the last Dark Guild member. Meanwhile, with the guild masters, it was night time in the forest as the guild master of fairy tales Makarov Dreyer stood in front of Kageyama, the last member of Eisenwald who in his hands has lullaby. The third master of fairy tales stood in front of Kageyama as he gave his speech in order to make the last member of Eisenwald surrender. By the time Makarov was done, he waited for Kageyama to make his decision. After a full minute, Kageyama was about to say something when suddenly something blew past him, freezing him in place. The guild masters stare at him in confusion when suddenly a click sound was heard throughout the forest as the young man's head fell from between his shoulders as blood gushed out from where his head used to be. Everyone looked at his core in horror as the body fell onto the ground, twitching a few times until it lay limp. They stared at the body in shock until they all recovered and looked around for the culprit who had done this unforgivable act. That is, until they heard someone speak from above them, causing all of them to look up to see two figures in the air. Pity, I was kinda hoping for him to play it. No matter, I at least don't have to deal with it, Naruto said calmly while his dragon brother nodded. Makarov's body trembled as he looked at both boys in rage. Why did you kill him? He was going to surrender. He yelled at Naruto, who was looking at the small man with a blank expression on his face. It matters not if he was going to, nor does it concern me, as he will still die, since it's my job to exterminate all the members of Eisenwald. If you got a problem with that, then take your complaints to the king, he said while descending towards the ground, followed by Ryu. Once he landed, Naruto walked towards the dead body of Kageyama as he picked up the flute. Looking at the flute, Naruto easily felt lullaby releasing its dark magic, whispering to him to release him. Scoffing at it, Naruto tightened his grip as he easily shattered lullaby in the process, as its soul floated up in the air, disappearing into nothingness. Dropping the remaining pieces of what's left of lullaby, Naruto looked at Ryu as he nodded towards the little dragon. Mission complete, he stated as both began to leave, until Naruto suddenly stopped as his senses picked up something. Naruto! Turning around, Naruto spotted Natsu, who was covered in fire, flying straight at him with anger in his eyes. Karyu no Tekken, Fire Dragon's Iron Fist, the Fire Dragon Slayer called his technique, while everyone looked at the scene in slow motion as Natsu's fist was getting close to Naruto's face. As the fist was closing in on him, Naruto calmly raised his Devil Bringer and easily catches Natsu's fist, thus canceling his attack. Looking at the Fire Dragon's shocked expression and satisfaction, Naruto suddenly tightened his grip on Natsu's hand. Foolishness, Natsu, he stated, adding more pressure onto Natsu's hand, causing him to grunt in pain as he fell on one knee holding his arm. Foolishness. Might controls everything, without strength you can't protect anything, Naruto stated, with his eyes glowing brighter, let alone yourself. He finished as crushed Natsu's hand with so much force, causing the Fire Dragon Slayer to scream in pain, Raising his leg, Naruto kicked Natsu in the chest, sending him flying to the other side of the field. The others looked at Natsu in shock, then back at Naruto, separating his legs apart, while at the time raising his hands as they were covered in a bright light. When the light died down, both of Naruto's hands and feet were covered in gauntlets. The gauntlets in his hands resembled that of a wolf's head with the fangs and mane. The greaves on his legs looked like clawed. Lastly, they were also covered in glowing veins that have white light flowing through them. Ao no Exorcist movie Kekai. Getting into his Jin Kazama Kyokushin karate stance, Naruto then gave them the come on sign as both Urza and Kagura charged at him as both drew their swords. Already halfway, Naruto instantly disappeared in a burst of speed, appearing in front of Kagura, taking her and Urza by surprise at his speed. Tightening his right fist, Naruto chanted one of his signature techniques. Dibairu Surya Oji, Masatsu Go Shoryu. Devil Slayer Secret Arts. Annihilating Great Rising Dragon. With his fist ignited in black fire, Naruto delivered an uppercut to Kagura chin, knocking her off her feet. But Naruto wasn't done as he spinned in a 360 motion, hitting her in the chin again, adding more force into his final punch, which resulted with both him and her into the air, growling as both passed the clouds. Naruto then rammed his fist from Kagura's stomach towards her chin, finding himself above her, with his right still raised. Naruto then opened his hand as harsh black ether nano wind surrounded him, forming till it created a black sphere. Crushing the orb with his hand, Naruto's entire fist was then covered in black/purple flames. Looking down at Kagura, he cocked his fist back and swung it straight into her face, dragging her down towards the ground in insane speed as a trail of black flames could be seen around them. Once they reached land, Kagura crashed down first, with Naruto's fist never leaving her face. Naruto landed. After clenching his fist tighter, he shoved it down, creating a massive black volcano-like eruption that shook the ground to a 15-mile radius. When the explosion died down, there in its place was a massive crater, and it laid Kagura, who was heavily damaged and top clothes ruined, with Naruto standing in front of her. Looking at his former sister, Naruto's instincts kicked in as he ducked, causing Urza's sword to miss a few centimeters of his hair, slamming both the bottom palms of his hands together. Naruto created a blazing blue fireball that ignited between them. Quickly turning around, the young man thrust both his hands towards Urza, firing at point-blank range. Hadouken! A large blue fireball by the size of an elephant consumed Fairy Tail's Titania, sending her to the other side of the field, creating a large explosion. Looking to his right, Naruto sees Happy, Gray and Lucy standing close to where the other guild masters are as they watch their friends being dominated in their fight. That's all he could say when he then turned his attention and saw Natsu gathering his magic, Karya no Hoko. Fire Dragon's Roar! Natsu called his attack, releasing a massive stream of pure intense flames that was heading straight for Naruto. Naruto watched as the stream of fire headed straight towards him, closing his eyes. Naruto's form was surrounded by shining white aura, opening them. Naruto's once white scara was now black, along with his cyan blue irises were now white, with his cat-slit pupils still the same. Cocking his right fist back as it was covered in white light, Ryusei, Meteor, thrusting his fist forward, Naruto released a massive ball of white flames that was heading straight for Natsu's attack. Everyone watched as both attacks clashed in the center, which resulted with Naruto's attack easily triumphs Natsu's, causing the said Dragon Slayer to watch in shock as he was consumed by the attack, creating a large explosion. Song end. Happy, Gray, Lucy and the guild masters watched in shock as two of Fairy Tail's S-rank mages were taken down with ease and quickly, while Natsu, who was too strong by his own right, was taken down as well. The remaining team Natsu flinched in fear when Naruto appeared in front of them. "Aren't you going to help your team?" he questioned, in which resulted with all three of them trembling at his presence that led him to shake his head, turning away as he began to walk, but stopped as he looked back at them for one last time. "The three of you are pathetic, especially you, Gray, to think you call yourself Natsu's rival," he said coldly, causing all three to flinch at his words, but he wasn't finished yet. "I can't say anything about you, Lucy, was it?" She nodded at that, but just remembered. "Wait, I never told you my end," but she was cut off when Naruto pointed his ears. "Enhanced hearing," he said with her accepting his answer. "Then there's you, Happy. You could have helped Natsu, but you proved far useless since the day of your birth," he cruelly said, causing the small blue cat to almost tear up by his words. "And then there's you, Gray. You stood by and watched your teammates beat into an enemy who's capable of killing them without hesitation." Naruto shook his head till he glared deadly at him. "I should kill you where you stand." But I won't, since you're not worth killing by my blade. To think you called me weak and useless, you hypocrite." With his final words said, he walked away with Ryu behind, but were soon stopped by a massive hand. Both turned to their right and saw Makarov glaring down at them. "You dare hurt and insult my children? I will not stand by and let you get away with this, Naruto. I care not if you are Minato's or Mikoto's child, I will destroy you." The third master yelled as he lifted up his right hand above his head and slammed it down, trying to crush both of them. But to his surprise both boys disappeared as he crushed nothing but the ground. Appearing at the other side of the field, Naruto looked at his former guild master with an emotionless gaze as he and Ryu continued to leave. Makarov glared furiously at Naruto as he made a dash towards him in his 35 feet tall titan form. When he was close enough, out of the blue a large reptilian hand grabs him by the face and throws him towards where the other guild masters are, who moved out the way. Makarov quickly recovered as he got up to his feet and looks for the one responsible, only to widen his eyes in surprise to who stood before him. The being that stood in front of Naruto in a protective manner was none other than Ryu, who was just a while ago a small dragon turned to a full-grown dragon that triumphed him in size. Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, the very same dragon that threw him Makarov Dreyer, the fifth wizard saint, with ease. Ryu glared furiously at Makarov with rage in his eyes as he roared, sending a powerful shockwave that pushes everyone back except Naruto. Naruto walked up to his brother, putting his hand on his shin, getting his attention as he shook his head. "Let's go, we finished what we came here for," he said. Ryu nodded, changing back to his original form as both turned to leave, only for their path to be blocked by the now awakened Kagura, who was looking at them with her fully mature Sharingan. Beside her was Urza with her heart Krua's armor destroyed, showing her black t-shirt that was hugging her well-developed figure with both her hands on her sword. Not far from them was Natsu, who got up to his feet with his shirt and pants torn to shreds while holding his bleeding arm. Why you aren't going anywhere, Oniai-chan? Not after all this years you've been alive this whole time," Kagura stated as she limped towards her brother. "I will drag you back home to our parents, even it means I have to break every bone in your body to do it," she continued as tears fall streaming down from her eyes. "She's right. We will bring you back home to Fairy Tail and make things right between us," Urza shouted with one eye closed and the other was open with tears falling from it. "Aye, and then we can be a big happy family, so what do you say, Naruto?" Natsu said with a big grin on his bloody face. During all this Naruto looked at them with a motionless face, but if you look into his eyes you can see rage from within them. The ground started to shake as everyone in the field started having trouble breathing when they all looked at the source, only to widen their eyes. The source was none other than Naruto, who was glaring at everyone coldly while being surrounded in cyan blue ether nano. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions, God's Anger. "I am not your brother nor the son of those bastards, as I already have a family and you're not a part of them," Naruto stated as his glare grew deadly as more of his aura began to grow. "And I would never go back to that hellhole I call a home. As for Fairy Tail, they will burn for all I care," he declared / shouted as his eyes changed into his own fully matured Sharingan. What's different is, instead of having crimson and black like Kagura's, his were cyan blue with white tomos. But he wasn't finished as his Sharingan began morphing as the tomos started forming into a 3-point shuriken, Itachi's Manjikyu, thus resulting for him to releasing an even larger amount of ether nano. That suddenly began taking shape of a colossal being with massive wings that easily triumphs both Ryu's and Makarov's forms. Everyone trembled in fear as the massive creature that stood behind Naruto was none other than a massive dragon, Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon. The dragon glared at everyone, especially towards Kagura, Urza and Natsu, who tremble in fear by his fierce glare. It stayed silently until it spread its wings wide, releasing a roar that caused a massive shockwave that blew everything away within the area. Once the roar ceased, it resulted the forest around them destroyed, along with everyone being unconscious except for the two. Song end. Naruto lowered his magic, deactivating his Sharingan as the dragon behind him disappeared into nothingness. "Let's go, Ryu, we're done here," he said calmly as he began to walk away, followed by his dragon brother. "Right," he said cheerfully, flew landing on top of Naruto's head, and which caused him to chuckle as he continued on walking into the dark path of the forest that was illuminated by the moon's light. "Hey Naruto?" Ryu called his brother, who in which him looking up towards Ryu, getting his full attention. "Something tells me this won't be the last we'll be seeing them again." "Fairy Tail, I mean?" the small dragon said, causing Naruto to look back towards the path before him. "Perhaps, but I doubt we'll be seeing them anytime soon," Now let's go see the king and report our mission. After that we'll step up our training, he said while Ryu nodded as Naruto continued to walk towards the deep dark forest. Behind Naruto in his shadow was a figure with 2 long demonic wings and a sword attached to his forearm. The figure eyes flashed aqua cyan blue for a second before its entire body turned back into a normal human shadow. It's been 2 weeks since the lullaby incident, along with some fairies getting their asses handed to them. We find our 2 demon/dragon brothers in a forest currently on a mission to hunt down a demon. Why are they in a forest? A few days ago the king received word that a small town not far from Magnolia was burned down along with its people by a creature that has the power to control fire, leaving no survivors in its way. Saddened by this, the king called Naruto and Ryu to investigate, but should they encounter the demon they are to put it down. Taking a deep breath, Naruto looked all around the forest for any sign of the demon. Sadly, no luck. While he's annoyed, Ryu on the other hand was using his enhanced scent of smell but proved no luck either. Naruto, did you pick up on anything? "'Cause I've got nothing," said Ryu as he finally gave up trying to track its scent. Shaking his head and looks at his youngest sibling, "Nothing. Either this demon is good at masking his/her ether nano, making it difficult to find, or he/she is really deep underground," he concluded as he kneeled one knee to touch the ground using his own senses to track it. The young dragon nodded towards his brother. "So if he/she is masking it or underground, how should we draw it out?" Hearing Ryu say that made Naruto smirk. Turning to his little brother he began to speak. "Do you remember that one time Dad left us to train by surviving on our own for 2 whole months? Ryu widens his eyes at that horrible experience and shivers. No, don't tell me we're going to make it come to us. Exactly, we're going to relive that once again? You do know it will come to bite us in the ass in the end, right? You remember last time we did that," Ryu said as he tries not to remember that horrible moment. "Hey, I have you know it totally wasn't our fault. Besides, how the hell were we supposed to know there was a blitz demon nearby?" the older brother said. "It never stopped chasing us until we have to kill it. You know what, whatever, let's just do this already," Ryu said. Naruto nodded as both gather up their magic, with Naruto and Ryu's aura being cyan blue, and released it out in the open. Once they released enough, both stopped and waited. Then suddenly both felt a massive K.I. that covered the entire forest as both Naruto and Ryu turned around to see a massive pillar of pure flames coming from underground. Coming from inside the pillar was a large demon head that was similar to that of a dragon's. The demon has razor-sharp teeth, along with 2 large devil horns that were covered in flames, as its eyes are amber gold with cat-slit pupils. Its entire body was made out of thick black skeletal bones with some parts covered in flames. It has long arms with long sharp claws, followed by bone-like legs with dragon-like feet and a long skeletal tail. Standing in front of them at 75 feet tall on all fours is none other than the Hellfire Demon Lord from the underworld, Ifrit from Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. The now named Ifrit roars at the heavens, sending a shockwave of blazing fire at both Naruto and Ryu, who weren't fazed by it. They stared at each other for it looked like forever until Naruto broke the silence. "So you're the one that incinerated the small town, setting everything on fire and killing its people in the process," he said as he eyed the demon before him. Ifrit snorts at them. "Filthy flesh bags seem to underestimate me if they send a boy and his pet to kill me? Now, I feel insulted," the Hellfire Demon said as both Naruto, Ryu look at each other, then back at Ifrit, releasing their ether nano that caused him to widen his eyes. "This power, there is no mistaking it. You're that abomination's sons, aren't you?" Ifrit growled while Naruto raised his Devil Bringer, summoning Yamato, while Ryu changes into his photon drive form, getting into their stances. Ifrit grinned darkly as his eyes were on fire. "I see, then let us begin." The Lord of the Hellfire roared, causing the once blue sky red with its sun black as the night sky as they all got ready. "Careful, Ryu, this is no ordinary demon," said Naruto while his Ryu nods. Final Fantasy X Seymour Boss Battle 2 theme. Ifrit charged at both rather fast with his massive size as Ryu flies up in the air, firing photon spheres from his mouth, while Naruto Flash stepped out the way. Appearing a feet away from Ifrit, Naruto grabbed Yamato's hilt as the entire sword was covered in dark blue flames with black lightning in the mix. Hanti Kato. Judgment Cut. Unsheathing his sword with blinding speed, consuming Ifrit with a whirlwind of slashes. When the two attack, make contact with Ifrit, causing an explosion. Both Naruto and Ryu stayed on guard in case Ifrit attack. When the smoke died down, it showed Ifrit with a few scratches still standing strong, growling at them. The demon lord raised his hands above his head only to slam both onto the ground, creating a massive dome of fire surrounding all three, destroying everything. When the dome disappeared, showing a once open field surrounded by trees, now a wasteland with blazing fire burning everything in its wake, Naruto and Ryu looked around the devastation, then back at Ifrit to see him charging at them once more, leading both to do the same. Meeting in the center, Ryu punches Ifrit straight in the face while Naruto slashed at his chest, leaving deep a large gash, causing blood made out of lava gush out from the open wound. Ifrit roars in pain as he retaliated by punching Ryu in the face, then firing a massive fireball from his mouth at point-blank range, causing an explosion. Coming out from the other side of the explosion was Ryu. As he was sent flying at the other side of the burning wasteland, Naruto saw this as he growled at Ifrit and jumps into the air while slamming both his palms together to the side. Harsh purple winds surround him, forming a purple sphere in between his hands mixed with black lightning. Debairu Surya Oji, Metsu Hataken, Devil Slayer Secret Arts, Destroying Surge Fist. Thrusting both his hands forward, Naruto fired a massive size purple fireball bigger than Ifrit, creating a massive explosion, landing back on the ground while Ryu got up to his feet and flew up into the air. When the smoke dissipated down, they see Ifrit heavily damaged while his blood was dripping from his body onto the ground. Growling, Ifrit looks up at both them and smirks darkly. Jumping high into the air, Ifrit spread both his arms wide on both sides as they were ignited in flames. Ryusei no Sudaraiki. Meteor Strike. Swinging one arm, Ifrit fires a massive meteor-size fireball towards Naruto, and the other at Ryu. TCH, putting away Yamato, Naruto brings out Beowulf and slams both his palms again. This time instead of purple it was white wind surrounding his form with black lightning into the mix. Ryusei thrusting his hand forward as a massive white fireball collided with Ifrit's attack, causing a massive explosion of white flames with a few yellow and red embers spread around. Meanwhile, at the same time, Ryu fires his Koshiryu Hoko. Photon Dragons roar at the other fireball, canceling each other out, causing an explosion in the sky. Once both explosion diminished, both Naruto and Ryu regroup at the other side of the wasteland, staring at Ifrit, who was at the other side of the field glaring at them. I will not die at the hands of that abomination, and especially to his brats, he roared as he jumps high into the air, creating 5 massive fireballs as they surrounded him. Ifrit then looks at both brothers with blazing eyes. This is the end, as death awaits you in hell, Jigaku. Hellfire. Casting his signature attack, the 5 fireballs around him combined together, creating a massive half-moon-sized blazing sphere with Ifrit at the heart of it. Meanwhile, in Fairy Tail, during at the same time, all members of Fairy Tail are currently outside enjoying their day, with some on the pool, training or sports, until a random member shouted, "Hey everyone, look!" Everyone stopped at what they were doing and looked towards the one who shouted, following his line of sight as everyone froze to what they were seeing. In the far distance away from the town of Magnolia, as everyone in Fairy Tail were seeing, is a massive fireball in the sky. What the hell? Another random Fairy Tail member said in fear. Urza, Natsu, Kagura and the rest Team Natsu can only look at the massive ball in shock at its size. While this was happening, 3 people were looking at the sphere with narrowed eyes. One of them is a man, who's standing at 6 feet tall. He's currently lean, built as a swimmer, built for speed and endurance. He has yellow spike hair with 2 pangs on each side of his face. His irises are blue, that goes well with his sun-kissed skin color, making him rather handsome. He wears a long black-sleeved turtleneck shirt with matching black baggy pants that's being kept in place as a black belt. And lastly, he wears black steel-toe boots with a black vest. This man is Minato Namake's, Kagura's and Naruto's father, but in Naruto's case, former father. Imagine him wearing his Jonin outfit but black and without his headband. Next to him is a woman standing at 5 feet 6 inches tall. She's as slim and well-toned like both Urza and Kagura, with her breast size standing at E that defies gravity, along with her perfect firm heart-shaped ass. She has a long black hair that reaches to her back with 2 long each side of her face. Her irises are onyx that goes well with her pale white skin, especially with her gorgeous heart-shaped face titling her as a goddess in human form. She currently wears the same clothes as Minato's, but her vest is navy blue instead of black. This beautiful woman is none other than Mikoto Uchiha, Kagura's and Naruto's mother, and again in Naruto's case ex-mother, and the last remaining person standing in between them is their guild master Makarov. Minato looked at the colossal sphere until he quickly remembered a council meeting they had a few days ago concerning about a devastating fire that burned down a small town that wasn't far off from Magnolia. Master, isn't that the direction where we received reports concerning about the small town is? Exclaimed Minato. I believe so, Minato-kun, replied the fifth seat of the council, who continued to stare at the massive fireball. Should we head over and investigate? This time it was Mikoto who answered. Makarov shook his head. No, I can't, nor do I want to risk any of my children to even get close, since we have no way of knowing who or what is causing that, Makarov said as both Mikoto and Minato looked at each other, then looked back at the massive size blazing sphere. Back to the fight. Both Naruto and Ryu stare at the Ifrit's Jigaku in shock, as the size could cause catastrophe within miles, killing innocents. Their train of thought was cut off when Ifrit decided to speak. This, the end for you. But even if there is a slightest chance of you surviving, the damage will be far too greater, as it will kill many within 1,000 miles. Ha ha! Ifrit laughed as he then descended towards them, followed by his attack. Widening their eyes at his words, both Naruto and Ryu then begin to think of a way to stop him. Shit, we can't let that reach the surface. If it does, then innocents will die, and that is something we cannot allow to happen, yelled Naruto as his eyes glowed cyan blue, changing into his MS Manjiki Sharingan. Ryu agreed as his own cyan blue irises glow. Then what do you suggest, Naruto? He quickly asked as both stare at the incoming attack. We have to use the Unison raid, he responded, causing his brother to widen his eyes at the mention of Unison raid. But bro, we can't do Unison raid without Pops, and even if we did try it, we would be vulnerable due to its drawbacks, Ryu explained as he saw his older brother grit his teeth. I know, but if we don't do this, then every innocent person within 1,000 miles will die. What would Dad say if he saw us right now? Yells Naruto, causing Ryu to widen his eyes at the declaration. But nonetheless he then agrees with his brother. Looking back at the massive fireball, both Naruto and Ryu released a massive amount of ether nano, causing the ground beneath them to crumble of the pressure of their power. Naruto MS shined brighter as his cyan blue aura begins to form, taking shape into a gigantic humanoid avatar figure who stood 60 feet tall. The avatar wore black samurai armor with some of the humanoid parts within the armor exposed. On its head the avatar wore a one-horned demon-like helmet that only showed its navy blue eyes. Lastly, behind the humanoid were two massive dragon-like wings. This being standing before Ifrit was none other than Naruto's Susanoo, Sasuke's Indra Susanoo avatar with Vala's Balance Breaker dragon wings, while at the same time, Ryu's entire body grew bright, changing as he grew until he matched Naruto's Susanoo. His wings grew larger, his tail grew longer and grew two more on both sides of his shoulders. His armor started changing, taking a different shape of armor. When the light died down, a new dragon stood before the demon lord, now as Ryu's in his dragon force form. Look up number 62, Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon Dragon. Once their forms were complete, the both shared a quick nod as they slammed their feet onto the ground. Taking deep breaths, both brothers gathered their magic enough until they were surrounded in a gigantic dome of their own ether nano. Raising their left/right arm back, the cyan blue dome surrounding them suddenly began shrinking in size until it was within the palm of their hands. Opening their eyes wide as both of their spheres combined, forming into a massive one, as they both shouting in unison, Unison Raido, Shinku Hadaken. Unison Raid, Great Surge Fist, thrusting their arms forward, a massive beam of pure cyan blue ether nano with black lightning surrounding it fired, heading straight for Ifrit's Jigaku. Song end. Back to Magnolia. During all this, the members of Fairy Tail see the massive fireball begin to descend towards the ground, causing all to panic. That was until everyone within the town felt a massive amount of power coming from same direction the fireball is. Then suddenly, out of the blue, a massive beam was fired heading straight for the fireball, causing a shockwave within the entire area as both attacks clashed for dominance. Minato, Mikoto, and Makarov widen their eyes at the display as both attacks continue to outdo the other. Amazing, that's all Mikoto said, while Minato could only nod. But the one that was more shocked was Makarov. Easily recognized this magic signature from the following events that transpired in the guild meeting. Closing his eyes, Makarov could only think one explanation. Naruto. When those words left from his mouth, both Minato and Mikoto instantly snapped their heads to look at Makarov. Master, WH, what did you say? exclaimed Mikoto with tears begin to appear in her eyes as she could have sworn she heard her son's name. Makarov looked at Mikoto with saddened eyes and repeated, I said Naruto is over there, he said as he saw Mikoto ran past him heading towards the battle where her son is located. Running behind her was Minato, who grabs her by the waist trying to stop her towards her death. Makarov looked at the scene before him in sadness. He then saw Kagura and her friends run up to them to see what was the commotion. He continued to watch as it was Kagura who tried to run towards where Naruto is, only for her friends to stop her as well. Taking a deep breath, Makarov looked away from them as he looked at the far distance as the attacks continued to fight for supremacy. Back to the fight. Damn it, we're standing on a stalemate. If this keeps up we will lose power, said Naruto as both he and his younger sibling continued to keep the Jigaku in place or at the very least push it back. Then what are we supposed to do? We're giving him all we got here, exclaimed Ryu. I don't know little bro, but let's not give up hope. Give everything you've got, the raven-haired boy shouted as both added more power to their Hado pushing back Ifrit. The said demon lord saw this as he retaliated adding more power to his Jigaku, increasing its size pushing back the Hadouken, making it even more harder for both sides to fight for dominance. In an unknown location, somewhere in the middle of nowhere in the open sea, there was an island where no man has set foot. On the island there was a massive cave and inside it stood 5 shadowy colossal figures looking at crystal ball. Inside the crystal was showing the fight between the brothers and the second strongest demon lord of the underworld. They won't stay like that forever. One of them will end up slipping giving the other the advantage, said one of the shadowing figures with the voice identifying it to be male. Yes, that may be so, but we must have faith that the boys will win after all they are his sons, said another figure, said this time with the voice of a female. Bah, if those hatchlings wouldn't stand a chance against the demon, then they no chance against my son, exclaimed one of them who is also a male. Suddenly a massive K.I. was released through the entire cave targeting the one who made that remark, causing it to struggle standing. All the figures looked into the darkness as 2 glowing cyan blue color eyes looked at him. Watch your tongue Metallicana, or I will tear it off along with your head, yelled the figure stepping out of the shadows to revealing itself to be a dragon. The dragon stood at 150 feet tall, standing on 2 legs as its entire body was lean built, giving the shape of a humanoid dragon and cyan blue glows similar to Ryu's. But instead of having majority of its body covered in similar navy blue armor scales, his were entirely black along with his razor-sharp claws and feet. This dragon was none other than Ashiana the Photon Dragon and father of both Naruto and Ryu. One of the shadowy figure raised his own K.I. as fire surrounded his form, revealing to another dragon. This dragon stood 147 feet on all fours with its bodily majority is covered with dark, red scales. Lower body, specifically his stomach, the inner portions of his long tail, and legs, are beige in color. It also has noticeable scars on his stomach and neck, with the largest one, which is X-shaped, located around the center of his body. His back has numerous black spikes, reaching down from the back to the end of his tail. The dragon has a triangular head with horns, a pair of large, round eyes with yellow sclera and a sharp horn pointing upwards just above his nose. Igneel also sports very sharp canine teeth, and has claws with long, sharp, red nails. And lastly was its large bony wings resemble a bat's. With Ripple Dragon was none other than Igneel the Fire Dragon King and Natsu's father, Ashiana. Stand down at once, Igneel ordered, causing Ashiana, who now targeted his K.I. at him. You have no rule over me, Igneel. You may be king, but remember that it was I who had defeated you. As we both know, the only dragon that can match me is Acnologia, countered Ashiana, towering over Igneel as both dragons narrow their eyes at each other until they both ease their K.I. Setting his sights at the crystal ball, Ashiana saw his sons begin to struggle holding back Ifrit. Looking away, the black dragon stomped towards for the cave entrance, getting all the dragon's attention. Ashiana! What are you doing? You know it's forbidden, shouted the same female dragon, knowing full well what the black dragon is planning. Ashiana stopped in his tracks as he looked back at the only female dragon in the cave. I do not care, Grandini. Laws be damned, I have already lost my wife. At the mention of his deceased mate, Ashiana closed his eyes, taking a deep breath as cyan blue aura surrounded his form. Opening his eyes, the black dragon turned and continued to walk out the cave. But I will not lose my sons. Those were his last words as he then leaves the cave. Outside the cave, once he stepped out the cave, Ashura summoned his wings as he looks at the sea, then towards the sky. Nova helped me make there on time, he spoke, then felt a hand on his shoulder, turning to face the one Ashura saw standing before him was a beautiful blonde woman that make any woman jealous of her beauty, with the top half of her body of that of a human woman, while the bottom half was that of a flaming dragon's body. I'm lazy to describe her, so I will just put Queen Dragon Jin as his mate. Nova smiles towards him as she disappearing from his sights. Turning around, Ashura roared as the ground beneath him crumbled along with blowing the water apart, shooting towards into the sky. Ashura flew into the direction where his sons are in blinding speed, breaking the sound barrier. Back in the fight, both Ryu and Naruto struggled to maintain their attack going while Ifrit was slowly getting closer to them little by little. "Shit, we're losing power, we can't keep holding it, Naruto!" shouted Ryu. "Don't give up, Ryu! If we stop now, then every innocent within 1,000 miles will die. So push with everything you got now!" shouted Naruto as both of them roared, releasing all their power, pushing Ifrit farther away, shocking the said demon in the process, roaring in anger as his attack became more darker in color, slowly overpowering their attack. "And oh, I will not be bested by you mongrels!" Ifrit exclaimed, shocking both Naruto and Ryu as they were both being pushed back. Damn it! This can't end like this," said Naruto, gritting his teeth as both Ryu and him continue being pushed back as the fireball is closing in on them. Back at Fairy Tail, both Makoto and Kagura were struggling as Natsu, Minato, Urza and Graze holding them back from going over to where their brother/son is. "Minato, let me go! My son is over there!" yelled Makoto as she tried to escape from her husband's hold, grunting as he kept holding her. "Makoto-chan. We can't, it's too dangerous," said Minato as he tried to reason with her. While they were having their own argument, Kagura on the other hand kept fighting to escape from her friend's grasp. "Natsu, Yarzie, Gray, let me go!" Kagura demanded as the said members of Team Natsu held her in place from leaving. "I'm sorry, Kagura, but we can't. Look, I want to go there and help, but we can't. We will only get ourselves killed," exclaimed Urza. Both mother and daughter trashed around their hold as tears escaped from their eyes. "Let me go!" they both shouted in unison. Suddenly they all stopped frozen in their tracks when everyone in the town of Magnolia heard a loud roar, looking to source up in the sky. Everyone in town widened their eyes to see a massive dragon pass by at blinding speed heading over to the fight. In a state of shock, none said a word, that is until it was broken by Natsu. "WWW, was that a fucking dragon?" he said out loud as Minato recovered and let go of Makoto, as he chased after the dragon followed by Makoto, Kagura and the rest of Team Natsu. Back at the fight during at the same time, both Naruto and Ryu eyes widened when they instantly recognized that sound, the sound of their father. Both looked back and saw their father land on the ground, looking at both his sons struggling maintaining their attack. Ashura then looked at Ifrit with a cold glare, then back at Naruto and Ryu. "Sawano Hiroyuki Blue Dragon, Naruto, Ryu, I am proud of you both, my sons, for lasting this long against the second strongest demon lord of the underworld. And for that let's finish this battle together," Ashura said as he began changing into a different form. Neo Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, look it up. Inside the Jigaku, Ifrit glared deadly toward the now arrived/transformed Ashura. "Ashura, you dare show yourself after what you and that traitor did to our kind?" Ifrit roared as Ashura looked towards the demon. "Ifrit, it's been a long time, still as annoying as ever," Ashura spoke, causing the demon lord to increase his glare. "You lousy good-for-nothing lizard, I'll obliterate you along with your sons." Ifrit roared as Ashura began charging his attack as rose ether nano flames could be seen from all three of his mouths. Neo Koshiryu Hoko, Neo Photon Dragon's Roar. Upon calling his attack, Ashura released a massive rose-like beam surrounded in black lightning heading straight for Ifrit. Once his beam made contact with the Jigaku, both Ashura's and his son's attack combined, forming an even bigger beam that instantly rivals the Jigaku. With the combined attack of father and son, Ifrit found himself pushed back as his Jigaku begins to crumble by their beam. Widening his eyes, Ifrit gritted his teeth. "This can't be. How can I be pushed back by an abomination along with his brats?" he exclaimed as his attack finally shattered, thus consuming Ifrit by the Hadouken, traveling into the sky, obliterating him till there was nothing left. With Ifrit now dead, Naruto's Susanoo shattered like glass, along with Ryu changing back into his chibi form as both fall onto the ground unconscious. Ashura saw this as he changed back to normal while carefully picking up both boys without hurting them. Turning around, the black dragon was ready to leave, when on pure instinct used his wings to block a large blue sphere used by a man with blonde hair, narrowing his eyes. Ashura spread his wings wide, pushing the man back, thus canceling his attack, causing a large explosion to occur. Seeing himself fly back, the blonde did a flip while in the air, landing safely on the ground where the rest of Fairy Tail members are glaring at Ashura getting ready to attack. Once the smoke diminished, revealing an unscathed Ashura, who fully turns around to face them, the black dragon looks at all of them till his sights land on the one who attack him. Both man and dragon face each other until the smoke causing the black dragon to growl. "Get your hands off my son!" Ashura vs. Fairy Tail, War with Phantom Lord Part 1. Ashura faces Fairy Tail's mages with a motionless face, but if you look closely into his eyes, as they held nothing but rage. Meanwhile, at the same time, Naruto's former family/guildmates looked back at him in anger. They stared at one another in silence. That is until, when suddenly a blinding light came from the sky, getting all their attention. The bright light began to diminish as a pair of black/orange gauntlets covered in spiked, with dragon heads as its wrist and forearm guards. Inside the dragon's mouth were golden metal-plated gloves covered in fire that descended from the heavens. The gauntlets floated towards Naruto till it was suddenly absorbed into his body, surprising everyone. Minato was the first to break out of his shock as he broke the silence. "I won't ask you again. Let go of my son," he repeated/demanded. Ashura could only stare at him with a blank expression on his face. Closing his eyes, Ashura concentrated as he gathered his magic till it surrounded him, not knowing what he doing. Team Natsu raised their guard until they were suddenly surprised when they began seeing two Ashuras. But the second Ashura was entirely different, as its entire body was made out of original's ether nano magic. Opening his eyes, Ashura handed his double both his sons. Already knew what to do since it's a part of him after all. The double nodded to the original, as it spreads his wings, getting Minato, Mikoto and the others' attention, already knowing what the double is doing, dashing towards it in an attempt to stop it from escaping. But they were instantly intercepted by the original, who appeared in front of them by ungodly speed, turning his head to see his doppelganger already in the flying off. Ashura then turned his attention back at Naruto's former father, and the rest, crossing his arms to his chest. Devil May Cry 3 OST Virgil Battle, extended. "If you want him, you have to get through me first, human," Ashura said with much venom in his voice. Minato and his family, along with Team Natsu, got in their fighting stance. While Ashura stand his ground, they stare in silence till Minato made the first move by disappeared in a yellow flash. Appearing just behind Ashura, Minato carried a large blue sphere on the palm of his hand. Hiraition ni no Dan, Rasengan. Flying Raijin second step, Rasengan. Thrusting his sphere at the dragon, an explosion occurred, consuming Ashura as the others followed suit, firing their attacks. Meanwhile, away from the battle was Lucy and Happy, standing at the sidelines watching the battle. "Karya no Hoko! Fire Dragon's Roar!" yelled Natsu, firing a massive blazing stream of fire. "Katon Endin! Fire Release Fire Bullet!" Mikoto exclaimed as she fired a giant-sized fireball. "Hato Kurosu no Yoroi, Tenrin Sakura Sodo! Heaven's Wheel Armor! Circle Sword! Dance my blades!" shouted Urza, sending a barrage of her swords towards Ashura. "Ice Akayanon! Ice Make! Ice Cannon!" shouted Gray, firing a cannon made out of ice. "Katon, Gokaku! Fire Release Great Fireball!" yelled Kagura, firing her own massive fireball. Song end. All five fired their attacks at Ashura, creating an even massive explosion. Smoke covered the battlefield as they all stayed on guard in case Ashura was still standing after taking their attacks head-on. The smoke began to dim, revealing a massive shadowy figure standing. Once the smoke finally diminished, everyone widened their eyes in shock when they see an unscathed Ashura still standing with his eyes closed. Opening his eyes, Ashura looked at the human standing before him in disappointment. Devil May Cry 3 OST Cerberus Battle, extended. "It's that all?" he said as he didn't get an answer. "How disappointing, my sons could do so much better with just their roar. But you, on the other hand, you're all pathetic." He uncrossed his arms as he stomped his foot onto the ground, creating a massive black dome that surrounded everyone except Lucy and Happy. The said pair ran towards them, shouting their names as the dome finally closed in front of their face. In an unknown dimension, inside the dome, everyone looked around in awe as they find themselves in space. then turned their attention back at Ashura. "Welcome to my own dimension where I rule and control everything. Now shall we begin?" he said, disappearing into the departments of his own world, causing everyone to tense, never letting their guard down. Suddenly out of nowhere Natsu and Urza were swatted, sent flying as the others shouted their names, appeared in front of Minato. Ashura clawed bitch slapped him to other side, as he then fired a medium-size Hataken towards a Gray, who was easily caught by surprise at his sudden appearance as a small explosion occurred. Seeing this, Mikoto awakened her own Manjikyu Sharingan, as she concentrated, summoning her own Susanoo, which began its first stage as Crimson Skeletal Avatar, then to a Orange Humanoid Avatar. Then finally the Avatar now wore a crimson heavy armor that resembles that of a long-nosed Tengu with a sword on one hand and a shield in the other. This was none other than her armored Susanoo, Itachi Susanoo. Looking at her mother's Susanoo in awe, Kagura awakened her Sharingan. As she took her stance by her mother's side, Mikoto's Susanoo raised her sword and tried to slash at Ashura, who spread his wings, flying up in the air, dodging her attack with ease, firing 3 large-size blazing cyan blue fireballs from his mouth towards Mikoto, as she used her Susanoo's Yata mirror to take the attack head-on. After she took the attack, Mikoto heard noises as she looked at her shield that led her to widen her eyes in shock as she saw a large crack on it. Impossible! How could he be able to damage my Yata mirror? It was supposed to easily nullify his attack, she said as Ashura lands onto the ground looking at her in boredom. It's because my son has Susanoo Oswell. He also explained to me that each one has a different set of abilities it changes it into, which are assault, defense, and perfect, and his are 3 times more stronger and durable than yours is. But that's not all, he even told me of their weakness in case I ever fight you. Ashura smirks at the shock look on Mikoto's face at the mention of Naruto having the Manjikyu. Taking the chance, Ashura charged and cocked his fist back, igniting it in cyan blue magic. Koshiryu Tekken! Photon Dragon Fist, thrusting his fist forward, delivering a devastating straight right into Mikoto's Susanoo face, shattering it. The female Uchiha instantly found herself flying, crashing into Minato, who just got up. After hitting Mikoto, Ashura turned around, only meet face first with a large fireball to the face, causing a large explosion. When the smoke died, it showed Ashura's face remain unscratched but not amused. Looking accuser, who so happens to be Kagura, who was the one that fired the fireball, watching her charge at him as she unsheathes her sword, Zan no Kata. Slashing form, she instantly lunged at him, slashing multiple times at his chest at blinding speed. Appearing behind him, Kagura sheathes her blade back into her scabbard as she looks at Ashura, who still had his back facing her. She smirks, thinking he was injured, but her smirk soon fell when she heard him chuckle, turning to face her, showing he was unscathed. "You have to do better than that if you ever want to cut my scales, girl, or should I say Naruto's little sister." He smirks when he watched Naruto's former sister dropped on her knees, staring at him with pleading eyes. Song End. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm OST 13. The black that fades away. As she was on her knees, she then bows her head on the ground, shocking everyone except Ashura, who looks at her in curiosity. "PP, please let me see Oni-chan, I beg of you." She looks back up at him with tears in her eyes as everyone looks at Ashura. The black dragon looks at her dead in the eyes, and in them he sees regret, sadness, and pain. Regret for what she did in the past. Sadness that she misses him. Pain that he doesn't want anything to do with her or his parents. After looking, he made his decision and responded that made the others angry and Kagura cry even more. "No, you aren't worthy nor have the right to see my son," he coldly responded while looking at her with a blank expression on his face. Minato looks at the dragon with anger in his eyes as he quickly responded, "What do you mean she doesn't have the right? Nor being worthy? She's his sister. We're his family," he said, causing Ashura to release his massive Ki, causing the dimension begin to crumble by his power. Everyone in the dimension struggled to breath while the ground beneath them shook like an earthquake. "You dare speak to me about family? I am more of a father to him than you will ever be. Nova is a better mother than your wife will ever be, and Ryu is a better sibling than your daughter will ever be human. You fairy tale mages speak about family and never abandon each other, and always look after one another as a family," Ashura said as he glared coldly at them while cyan blue aura surrounded his form. "Then where were you when he was left alone, injured on that mountain? Where were you when he needed you most? Why weren't you there for him? He shouted, waiting for an answer, but never received any as they stayed silent. Ashamed by his words, "You can't answer me, can you? That is why, unlike me, one of the first demons created by Zerif in the book of E.N.D., a demon who was supposed to hate and kill you humans, gives a human child a second chance in life and gave him what he always wanted, a family that loves him back." He looks at all the members of Fairy Tail, especially on Minato, Kagura and Mikoto, who were all looking at him in disbelief. The only one that was glaring at the dragon was Grey. A demon created by the dark mage Zerif himself took care of a human that he was created to kill. Mikoto was the first to come out of her shock as she looks at Ashura in confusion. "WW, what do you mean you gave him a second chance?" she exclaimed/demanded. Ashura ignores her outburst, as he lowers his K.I., getting everyone to sigh in relief as the dimension disappears, returning them into reality. Ashura then spreads his wings, floating into the air, getting everyone's attention. "I have wasted enough time with you, I must go see if my sons have awakened," he spoke calmly as he instantly disappears in blinding speed, ignoring their shouts. Song end. With Naruto and Ryu. Naruto groans as he starts to open his eyes. Once he did, he blinking a few times as he sees the open sky. He then sits up and looks around, finding himself and his brother in the middle of an open field surrounded by trees. Turning to his left, he sees Ryu still asleep. Standing up, Naruto walks towards him slowly, still sore from his fight with Ifrit. Once he reached his destination, he then starts shaking Ryu. After a few minutes of trying, he then heard Ryu mumbling about food until Naruto grew a tick mark on his head as he makes a fist, then bam! Ow! Ryu shouted in pain as he looks at Naruto while messaging his now big bump on his head with his small hands or claws with tears at the corner of his eyes. "What was that for?" he said/shouted. "I tried waking you up, but you wouldn't budge, so I had to try a different option," he said, looking around, ignoring his brother's glare. "Whatever were we at anyways?" Ryu questioned as he starts looking around the field. "Somewhere in the middle of the forest, which I guess Dad brought us here. But I don't see him anywhere." Just then a huge shadow covers them, instantly causing them to turn around, getting into their stance, only to relax when they saw their father land on the ground. Seeing his sons relax caused the black dragon to smirk. "I see both of you have awakened and feeling well," he said as both nodded at him. "So where were you at, Pops?" Naruto questioned his father, causing the said dragon to look at him for a few seconds after he takes a deep breath. "After you both fell unconscious, I was then attacked by your former family and Ignil's brat," he said, causing Naruto to narrow his eyes at him. "What did they say?" Naruto asked while Ashura continued. "Your father demanded that I should hand you over to them. I declined until I made a doubleganger in order to send you both here, while I held them off, just beaten enough so they wouldn't follow," he said, shaking his head in disappointment. Naruto shakes his head at Fairy Tail's foolishness until Ashura then remembers something. "Naruto, there is something I need to tell you," he said, getting his attention. "During the time after the humans demanded to hand you over, there was a light in the sky that got our attention," he said, continuing with his story. "When it diminished, a pair of gauntlets descended from the sky till it was absorbed into your body," he said, surprising Naruto and Ryu. "It would appear to me Ifrit's soul was inside the gauntlets, as he finds you worthy of wielding his power," he said, as both Naruto and Ryu were taken by surprise at what their father meant, especially to Naruto. Long ago he remembered the time when both he and Ryu defeated a demon that goes by the name Beowulf. Tough bastard, but never shut up about calling him, and I quote, the bastard who sealed him, whoever that was. But in the end it was all worth it. That's how he got his gloves. Well, that explains how I received Beowulf," he said, summoning the black spike gauntlets. Ashura nodded in agreement. On the inside it surprised him that his sons killed Beowulf, the sixth strongest demon lord, and they just fought Ifrit the second, who's just under he himself, the former strongest demon lord, until 400 years ago he betrayed them when he met Sparta and assisted to seal them away. Ever since then, Ashura hasn't seen his demon brethren in over 400 years, but the question is, why appear now? Are the seals that Sparta used to separate the demon world and the human world weakening, or someone weakening them, releasing them? Shaking out of his thoughts, he can think about this later. For now he must return to the dragons. "Naruto, Ryu," he said, getting their attention, "I must return to where the dragons are. I have broken an important law and I must face my punishment. This is farewell for now, my sons. Grow strong and make me and your mother proud," he said, receiving understanding nods from both. Ashura nods to them one last time as he then shot into the sky. Once they can no longer see him, they both turned around and report to the king, "Another mission well done. but after what happened today, they must train even more than they have ever imagined so mistakes won't repeat itself. But little did they know that war is coming. A week and a half later, it's been 11 days since the battle with Ifrit, and seeing their father after so long. During those days both Naruto and Ryu trained to the extreme as Naruto finally awakened his new devil arms he received from Ifrit. By controlling the fire of hell themselves, Naruto was able to recreate Ifrit's original techniques, even add his own techniques into the mix, thus even making him immune to fire as well. Now we find both brothers with Naruto wearing the same clothes, FFVI. Advent Children Cloud Strife costume, in Magnolia enjoying eating their morning breakfast in a restaurant that isn't far off from the guild. While enjoying the peace and quiet, Naruto heard two other customers having a conversation that caught his interest. Hey, did you hear? Fairy Tail Guild building was destroyed, said one guy. Nanny? By who? Asked the other. I heard it was Phantom Lord. Phantom Lord? Wait, wasn't there insignia marked on a poor blue-haired girl from Fairy Tail this morning? Said the man, causing Naruto's eyes to widen at that. There was only one girl that he knew that had blue hair. Yeah, poor girl tied to a tree. And I also heard that it was Phantom Lord's Iron Dragon Slayer Gajil who did it too, the man finished as Naruto stands up walking towards the two men, getting Ryu's and their attention. Excuse me, but the girl you mentioned, is she alive? He asked. The two men were about to tell him to fuck off, but shut their mouths when they saw his eyes. They were glowing and he looked pissed. Deciding not to anger him, they replied, Why yes, she's alive. She was taken by some pink H-haired old lady. One of them said, scared. After hearing this, Naruto sighs in relief as he knows who has the girl. Bachan, she must have taken Levy to her home. But why wasn't Kushina with her? She never leaves Levy alone, especially out of her sights. He finished with his thoughts as then looks at the two. Thank you for your information. He thanked them while they nodded back. When suddenly the ground started to shake. Earthquake! Screamed a random female customer as everyone started to run out the restaurant. After they were gone, Ryu flew towards to Naruto, landing on his head. Both stayed silent while walking out of the restaurant, heading towards Fairy Tail's guild. That is currently being attacked by a robotic construction with a flag that has an insignia that represented Phantom Lord. At Fairy Tail, helpless, crestfallen, defeated. Those were the three emotions all the members of Fairy Tail felt as they stare at the robotic construct that belongs to Phantom Lord. How did it come to this? It all began when the guild was attacked 2 nights ago. That left Fairy Tail ready to retaliate, but the Makarov ordered them to leave it as they can't go to war since the council could use this to disband them, and they're already on the council bad side as it is, and so they took the master word for it, and calmed down, and now use the basement as a temporary guild building. But then this morning they find Levy McGarden, a Fairy Tail mage who used to be with a team called named Shadow Gear, in which she broken up with them, since her 2 former teammates Jet and Droid didn't like Naruto, since he always got Levy's attention, was attacked by Phantom Lord's Dragon Slayer Gajil Red Fox. Enraged by this, Makarov declared a full-scale attack on Phantom Lord's guild council. Be damned. The battle was in their favor until their master was easily defeated by one of Phantom Lord's Elemental 4 named Arya, who somehow drained his magic. In order to save their master, Minato used Horation to take him to Poor Elusika's home to recover. Poor Elusia, who is an elderly woman that lives in a tree house, located in the East Forest outside of Magnolia Town. She is Fairy Tail's medic advisor and one of the few people that actually cares about Naruto. When she found out about Naruto's treatment in Fairy Tail, she had later announced she will no longer give any medical services to provide for the guild. Years later, after Naruto's mysterious disappearance, she became more distant, isolated to her home, with the only one that visits her is Levy, since she too cares and misses Naruto. With Fairy Tail's master injured and confidence broken, Phantom Lord sent a full-scale attack at Fairy Tail, who were recovering their injuries. And so we return to the present. This is your last warning. Hand over Lucy Hearthfilia or we will fire the Jupiter cannon, shouted Jose por la Phantom Lord Master, as he watched them in Lacrima monitor while sitting in his throne with sinister smile in his face. Fuck you! Shouted a random member of Fairy Tail. You can try and to get her off our cold dead hands, shouted another member at the construct. Tears fall from Lucy as she looks at all her guildmates, feeling a hand on her shoulder. Lucy turned around as she see meet face to face with former S-rank mage Mary Jane Strauss. Mary Jane is a slim young woman of below average height. She has large blue eyes and a curvy, voluptuous body, with large breasts and firm plump ass, Her white fairy tale stamp is located on her left thigh. She has long, white hair which curls slightly at the ends, with 2 bangs framing her face and reaching down to her chest, and a short upward ponytail tied from covering her forehead. Her most commonly seen attire is a sleeveless, ankle-length maroon dress with a pleated skirt. The chest is adorned by a large, pink bow, and similarly colored trimmings frame the rather ample neckline, acting as straps, and circle around. The also wears high-heeled shoes that match her dress, and accessorizes with a small chain necklace with a blue oval gem attached to it, and a bracelet made of white flowers circling her right wrist. She is widely known for her beauty, being Fairy Tale's drawing card and having posed many times for the Sorcerer magazine. Years ago she was one of the strongest mages of Fairy Tale that rivaled Urza and Kagura in strength, but then quit when her sister Lysana Strauss died in a mission which was an accident. After the funeral she became the guild's bartender and nicer to everyone over the years. But she has a dark secret that she knows and she still regrets it to this very day, but unknown to her, her very dark secret will soon come to be revealed. We have to get you out of here, Mira said, leading Lucy to widen her eyes. BB, but why? I can't just leave you guys, she said, causing Mira to smile sadly as she shook her head. Don't you worry about us, we can handle him. But our main concern is to get you to safety, she said, calling one of the members named Ritas. What do you need, Mira? Mira looks at him. I need you to take Lucy far away from here as possible, keep her safe she said as Ritas nods, then takes Lucy's hand and starts running away. Wait, Rita, stop Mira, she shouted. Mira watched as Lucy disappears from view. She then turns around and looks at Phantom Lord, not knowing that Lucy will soon be captured by Phantom Lord. Fine. It's your funeral, Jose shouted as he nodded at the cannon's operators, who nodded back to him and prepared to fire. Outside, all the members of Fairy Tale looked at the cannon in horror, as Mikoto and Urza ran up in front using her Susanoo-S Yodo mirror and Urza's adamantine armor, preparing to protect their nakama as the cannon was releasing a black and purple energy glowing inside it. Fire! Jose roared as the Jupiter cannon fired a massive black compressed beam of energy at Urza and Mikoto, who they both closed their eyes ready for impact. Azura's Wrath Ost Evil Ryu theme. Dibairu Surya Oji. Masatsu Shikanetsu Go Hadaken. Devil Slayer Secret Arts. Annihilating Scorching Heat Great Surge Fist. A demonic voice shouted throughout the area, causing all to widen their eyes when a massive golden/purple beam of pure intense flames passed by Mikoto, Urza heading straight for the Jupiter cannon. Everyone watched when both beams clashed, canceling each other, creating a massive explosion. Once the explosion diminished, everyone was taken back when a figure appeared in front of all of them. In front of them stood a lean-built, black steel-spiked demonic humanoid, whose armor was built for speed, movement, strength and endurance, while covered in glowing orange veins with fire flowing through them. On its head the demon wore a black faceless helmet that only shows its golden amber eyes with black cat-slit pupils, and lastly 2 large fire-covered devil horns on both sides of its head. Batman Arkham Knight's Batman Beyond costume, but imagine his entire armor black with reptilian scales, made from Gears of War 4 black steel armor. And finally, wearing the Arkham Knight's helmet, his horns from Final Fantasy XIV Ifrit. Song end. Shaking out of her shock, Urza changes into her Heaven's Wheel armor, pointing her sword at the demon. Who are you, demon? She shouted/demanded at the demon, who turns to looks at her. Chuckling demonically, the demon was consumed in flames, causing her to tense as she readied herself to attack. When the fire diminished, it revealed the figure that was once a demon, instantly caused Urza to drop her sword onto the ground. Following behind her, Mikoto, Team Natsu and everyone in Fairy Tale, including Mira, widened their eyes in shock. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 2 acquaintance from long ago, the once demon standing in front of them, was none other than Naruto, with Ifrit gauntlets smirking at them in amusement. Landing on his head was Ryu, crossing his chibi arms to his chest, staring at them. Silence reigned supreme as wind breezes passed everyone until Naruto broke the silence. What's wrong, demon? Got your tongue? He said coldly as Urza walked wobbly towards him, still recovering from their fight with Phantom Lord. And Naruto-kun, she called his name as she reached to touch his face. But suddenly the young man grabbed her wrist, looking at her dead in the eyes. Don't ever touch me, human, he said demonically, causing her eyes to widen. He then looks towards his ex-mother, Namikaze. Mikoto flinched at the way he addressed her, including the way he was looking at her. Looking away from his former mother, he at everyone until his cyan irises meet ocean blue. Naruto looks at Mirajane emotionlessly, but in his eyes they held different emotions: pain, rage, love. While he looked at her, Mirajane looks at him with different emotion as well: regret, pain, love. She sent him a sad smile, only for it to fall when he sets his sights back to Urza, who he still held her wrist. Song end. I going to make one thing clear: didn't came for any of you. I'm only here because they hurt Levy-chan. I don't care what your fate is against Phantom Lord, but I am going to end the ones responsible for Levy with their lives, he said, getting closer to Urza until their noses were touching, as glowing cyan stared into brown. So stay out of my way, he said darkly / demonically, causing Urza, Kagura and Mirajane feel jealous when he only came for Levy, especially when he added Chan's suffix with her name, while the others look at their feet. After saying his piece, Naruto moved away from Urza as he set his sights towards the Jupiter cannon. But first I'm gonna have to do something with that cannon. Something like this in the hands of an old jealous, power-hungry fool is simply I cannot ignore, Naruto said, walking towards the Phantom Lord's guild while Ryu got off from his head, landing on the floor. Yes, something like this is bad for the community. The little dragon nodded as Naruto stood before Phantom Lord, ignoring everyone's calls. Inside his construct, Jose was enraged that someone not only intervened but also stopped his cannon with no effort. He then sets his sights to the cannon's operators. What are you just standing there? Charge the cannon and get ready for another shot, Jose ordered as one of the operators looked at the master in fright. We can't, sir, the cannon overheated and won't be ready for until 15 minutes for it to fire again, he explained, only for Jose to grow even angrier. As he was about to yell, his monitor picked up as he turned to see the one responsible for stopping his cannon stood before him. What does that fool think he's doing? The guild master said, confused as he saw Naruto now standing in front of the construct. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII controlling the Iron Beast Ost. As he stood in front of the Phantom Lord, Naruto slowly closed his eyes as dark bluish/black aura surrounded his entire form, instantly snapping his eyes open. Naruto released a dense massive ether nano, causing the ground beneath his feet crumble. Dark clouds covered the sky as thunder roars from the heavens. One lightning bolt strikes towards the earth right into Naruto, causing a massive explosion from where he stood. Once the smoke caused by the explosion began to diminish, in the center the once Naruto Uchiha standing before Phantom Lord was now a lean-built dark demonic humanoid, built for speed, endurance and strength. The demon wore a long navy blue reptilian coat, with 3 coat tails split into 4. His once black spiky hair now became cranial crest shape. His sheath that carries Yamato now grafts to his left arm with claw-like tips, thus becoming organic appendage. Everyone within the area was shocked at his transformation except Ryu. Look up DMC4 Special Edition Virtual DT for better description. Rara-aha! Naruto roared hollowly at the heavens, releasing a massive spiral shockwave, blowing everything in his way. Grabbing Yamato's hilt, Naruto slowly got into stance, in which Jose instantly recognized, causing him to tremble in fear. There was only one person in the world with that style, the Dark Slayer. No! Jose exclaimed through the intercom, getting everyone's attention. Yo, you can't be him, he was pronounced dead. You can't him. You can't be Virgil Sparta, he exclaimed, getting everyone confused until they heard Naruto chuckle hollowly. Of course I'm not him. I'm just someone who so happens to find his tomb from some underground cave. Inside it I found his sword laid in stone with his soul protecting it. We engaged in battle, it was tough, but in the end I barely won. After his defeat, Virgil-sensei found me worthy to wield Yamato and taught me everything he knew, and so I now hold the mantle of Dark Slayer like my master before me, Naruto said as harsh black spiral-like whirlwind surrounded him as his turquoise cyan blue eyes grew bright. Now watch me as I destroy your pathetic cannon in an instant, he exclaimed, as he instantly vanished, breaking the sound barrier. Boom! Everyone flinched in fright as thundering roars echoed throughout the area. Then suddenly, insanely, massive dimensional crescent moon-shaped slashes that cut through time and space surround Phantom Lord's entire guild. Instantly Naruto appeared in a black/blue flash on one knee, facing everyone in fairy tales, slowly sheathes Yamato back into its scabbard till a click sound echoed throughout the area. Vroom! Metallic noises coming from Phantom Lord's Jupiter cannon, mechanical legs and some parts of the construct began falling apart as their entire guild fell into the ground with the building unknowingly still intact. Shock rang supreme as everyone looked at Naruto, who's now standing up to his feet. Shin no Hondan Kato Endo. True Judgment cut end. Song end. Deactivating his devil trigger, Naruto looks towards his brother. Ryu, stay here and make sure Phantom Lord doesn't try anything while I'm inside, he said while Ryu gave a small nod. Looking away, Naruto then vanished in a flash step, heading straight inside Phantom Lord construct. Looking to where Naruto once stood, Urza shakes her head as she looks towards the others. Natsu, Gray, Elfman, Kagura, let's go. Naruto can't do this alone by himself, she ordered as the others agreed, following her inside. After they went inside, dark shades began to appear from the construct as Ryu changed into his photon drive and began his assault, while the rest of Fairy Tail's members helped him out. Inside Phantom Lord, Naruto appeared inside the guild near the top with the help of his flash step. He ran up the stairs till he made it into a large room when strangely began to rain. Looking for the source until in front of him stood a beautiful woman with a curvaceous figure, blue hair with shimmering light, dark blue eyes with pale skin that goes well with her gorgeous heart-shaped face. She was wearing a navy blue coat, with a fur shawl Russian Cossack hat. He raised an eyebrow at the woman's emotionless expression as she began to speak. Drip, drip, drop, the rain feels quite nice on the skin, doesn't it? Naruto narrowed his eyes as equipped Ifrit getting into stance. I guess all I have to do is get past you, huh? He asked as he knew her answer. She nodded as she fired a high-powered water ball towards him, in which he sidestepped out the way, as he looks at the wall to see a large hole made by her attack. My name is Juvia Laxus, member of Phantom Lord's Elemental 4. She narrowed her eyes, raising her hand as water started dripping from it. On my honor, I shall not let you pass. Naruto ignited Ifrit in flames, preparing himself. Wotaraku! Water lock! Naruto looked down as he found himself caught in a dome made out of water. No one has ever escaped Juvia's water lock. Enjoy the much time you have left, she said, watching Naruto look around the dome with a blank expression on his face. Closing his eyes as he gathering his magic as the water dome suddenly began to boil till it combusted into a pile of raging flames, destroying Juvia's water lock with ease. Juvia looked at Naruto with wide eyes, then narrowed them as she launched another attack. Wota Suraisa! Water Slicer! She fired a single wave of multiple blades that resemble scythes towards him, dodging all of them. Naruto then charged at Juvia, who smirked and used another spell, Wota Nebula, Water Nebula. Juvia fired two large water streams straight at Naruto, who countered by punching the ground. Kazan! Volcano! A large volcanic-like eruption of dark reddish/yellowish flame burst from the ground, big enough to take Juvia's attack head-on. Once both attacks made contact, thus canceling each other out, as a large steam cloud covered the entire room. Once the cloud died down, showing a perfectly unharmed Naruto smirking, enjoying the battle so far. On the opposite side, Juvia smirked as she too enjoyed their battle as well. Wanting to end this, both gathered their magic ready to end this with one attack. Wota Jiguso! Water Jigsaw! Transforming her body into a rapidly spinning cone, which is surrounded by a swirling mass of blades resembling her water slicer, Naruto activated Ifrit's DT form, Jigaku. Hellfire! Surrounding himself in a giant dome of hellish fire which was now forming into a blazing spiral vortex. They both headed right at each other. Once they were in close range, they created a large shockwave that blew everything away. While fighting for dominance, Naruto added more power to his hellfire, making it more bigger and more powerful, pushing Juvia back. Juvia will not lose! Juvia exclaimed, but the Jigaku proved too great as it pushing her jigsaw back till she was consumed, causing a large explosion. When the smoke died down, showing Naruto still in his DT form looking at Juvia unconscious state. Looking at her down form, Naruto shakes his head as he walks towards her, picking her up in bridal style. The young devil walks toward the door which leads to the top of the guild as he lays her down next to it. Once he lays her down, Juvia finally regains conscious as she opens her eyes looking at her surroundings, till her pupilless blue irises finally met Naruto's cyans. The water mage tense, thinking the man before her will end her life. That is what she thought until Naruto raised his hand, calming her down. It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you, the young man said, in which calms the beautiful water mage before him. Why did you sparing Juvia? Isn't she your enemy? Naruto raised a brow at the way she spoke in third person. He gave the water mage a smile, a true smile that he had never shown to no one, not even his little brother, in which resulted Juvia to blush thanks to his handsome face. It's because you and I are the same, he said, confusing her, but continues. What I mean is I can see it in your eyes, the pain of being alone. Naruto finished, causing Juvia to look at him in surprise, then looks at the ground sadly as tears begin to form in her eyes. Hi, it's quite painful to Juvia, she finished and was suddenly then brought into a hug by Naruto. I know it hurts, but I promise you, you will soon find someone that will care for you like I have, so just hold on for a bit longer, he said, making her hold him as tears continued to fall on her face. Both held each other for a while, until their moment was suddenly interrupted by an explosion in the upper floors, causing them to separate. What was that? Juvia said as she saw Naruto got up, then looked at her. It would seems Fairy Tail is engaged in battle against your fellow elementals. Juvia, I'm gonna need you to tell me, where is Gajil Red Fox? He asked as looking straight into Juvia's eyes while she does the same. Why? Is it to save this Lucy person? She said, somewhat jealous, which Naruto didn't miss as he shook his head, resulting her to sigh in relief. No, I'm only here for Gajil and Jose, that's all. So are you gonna tell me, or do I have to be rough with you? He said, not realizing that he just created a pervert. Juvia looked at him with a huge blush on her face, with little trail of blood fall on her nose. She wipes the blood off and nods her up and down. Hi, Juvia said as she told him that Jose and Gajil were at the top of the guild. After Juvia was done, Naruto smiled as he got up, heading for the stairs. But not before looking at Juvia one last time. Thank you for your help, Juvia-chan. I hope our paths cross again, he finished as he began running up the stairs. Once he was gone, Juvia raised her hand, placing it where her heart is. Juvia's in love, she exclaimed with a beautiful smile as the rain stopped, revealing sunlight shining upon her. With Naruto. After leaving Juvia, Naruto ran up the stairs which will lead him straight to Gajil, along the way reaching his target. The young devil saw Urza and the others fighting the remaining members of Phantom's Lord's elementals, using his Dark Slayer abilities taught to him by Virgil. Naruto easily teleported past them without drawing attention to him. Once past them, Naruto continued on ahead till he saw a large room up ahead. Once he made in, he was then greeted by a large group of Phantom Lord's members. This is as far as you go, Fairy, exclaimed one random member, with others agreeing with him. Naruto looked at his surrounding, eyeing every single one of them with a blank expression on his face. Closing his eyes while taking a deep breath, Naruto opens them as he began to speak. Tell me where Gajil is, or I will kill every single one of you in the most painful way possible. He spoke/threatened calmly, causing all the Phantom Lord mages to laugh at him until a random member spoke. Ha ha, as if a Ouija. Whatever he was about to say was suddenly cut off when a glowing 3.5-foot-long cyan sword with blue-purple electricity impaled his throat, causing his fellow guildmates take a step back in fear. They watched him fall to the ground as the sword shattered, causing his head to explode, splattering blood/gore on his guildmates as he died instantly. No one from Phantom Lord said anything as they stared at their dead member while covered in his blood. Shaking in fear, they all looked back at Naruto, whose eyes were shadowed but his one glowing cyan iris could still be shown, gazing at them like a predator does to his prey. DMC Devil May Cry empty theme. If none of you are going to tell me, then die, he said hollowly as the entire room was sealed off by cyan rune walls, trapping all of them inside. The members of Phantom Lord look at Naruto in fear as he crossed his arms to his chest, surrounding himself in cyan blue ether nano. Vroom. Hearing weird noises coming from above, all the members of Phantom Lord look up only to widen their eyes in horror that either made them shit/piss themselves. Above them were the same glowing cyan sword projectiles that killed one of their own, only this time there were millions of them. Naruto raised his demonic hand and was about to command his attack, that is until he heard someone call his name. Growling in annoyance, Naruto looked behind him to see Urza, Kagura, Natsu, Elfman and Gray banging on his rune barrier seal. Naruto-kun, stop! Urza exclaimed pleadingly as she continued to bang on the sealed barrier. Idiot, if you do this, I swear I'll kick your ass! Natsu shouted as he punched the wall with his fire-covered fists. Oni-san! Please don't kill them, remember you're a fairy tale mage, Kagura said with tears in her eyes, trying to reach out to her older brother. Listen to them, Naruto-san. What you're doing is unmanly, Elfman said as he stood behind them. Naruto, if you do this you'll become no better than your uncle, exclaimed Gray, causing Naruto to freeze. Silence reigned supreme as Naruto released unimaginable Ki, causing the barrier to crack by the pressure but remain intact. Everyone fell to their knees, having hard time to breath as the air around them became dense. Turning to face them fully, Naruto stared coldly as one of his glowing cyan iris became violet, while the other stayed the same. Black reptilian scales appeared spreading on the right side of his face as his gaze grew more colder. Never in your pathetic life speak about my uncle in front of me, Ningen. Saying those words without emotion in his voice shocked Gray and the others as he turned his gaze back to the members of Phantom Lord, who were now shaking in fear. Raising his demonic hand once more, ignoring the shouts coming from his ex-guild mates, Naruto proceeded to command his attack, Horobairu. He finished as he brought down his hand as everyone widened their eyes in horror as the massive number of glowing blades rained down towards the dark mages. Gaya! All members of Phantom Lord screamed in terror as they were all now being slaughtered by the devil's raining hail of blades. Behind the barrier team, Natsu could only watch in horror as their enemies were being killed by one of their own without an ounce of mercy. After a few minutes of slaughter, every single member of Phantom Lord now lay dead on the ground, impaled by multiple blades staining the ground with their blood. Looking at his ceased enemies in silence, Naruto walked onwards towards the stairs, not caring if he stepped on the corpses, until he stopped dead in his tracks when Natsu banged on the barrier fiercely. "You bastard! How could you kill them? Wait till I get my hands on you. I swear I will make you pay for this," the Fire Dragon Slayer screamed in rage while the rest looked at him with anger in their eyes. Turning his head around and fully faced them, Naruto snaps his fingers, making the magic barrier to open in front of Natsu. "By all means, come make me pay then." He spoke calmly, and without warning Natsu charged at him with great speed, igniting his fist in flames. Karya no Tekken. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Scoffing in disappointment, Naruto sidestepped out the way, causing Natsu to miss. As the pink net missed his attack, Naruto cocks his fist back, igniting it in his own fire as he called out his attack. Jigaku no Sora Apakato. Hellfire's Sky Uppercut. Naruto roared as he uppercutted Natsu by the chin, sending him into the air, leaving a blazing trail following behind. Appearing high in the air just above him, Naruto began to spin in high speed till he was surrounded in a tornado of intense hellish flames. Kiku 13. Kick 13. Calling out another attack, Naruto stopped spinning as he delivering a devastating flaming roundhouse kick onto Natsu's stomach with so much force as the said Dragon Slayer puked a glob of blood as he impacted the ground, creating a large crater. "Natsu!" Everyone in Team Natsu screamed his name in worry as they banged the barrier trying to get to him. Landing safely onto the ground, Naruto walked towards the injured Natsu till he stood in front of him. Song end. Looking at Ignil's son struggle getting up from the ground, Naruto grabs him by the throat as he easily lifts him up as he looks at him straight in the eyes. "Ironic, isn't it, that you were the one insulting me, belittling me for being weak? Well, it would seem the tables have turned," he said coldly as he then threw Natsu at the barrier where the others are. "Leave this place, Fairy Tail. You are not welcome, as you will only get in the way," Naruto said, gaining their attention. "If you continue staying here, you'll only be leading yourself to your death. Heed my words, Fairy Tail's strongest team." Finally finishing his words, Naruto headed straight for the stairs, leaving his former guildmates by themselves. Once he was gone, the rune barrier dissipated as everyone ran towards Natsu, making sure he was alright. The said Pinknet grunted in pain as he nodded his head, letting them know he was alright, causing the others to sigh in relief, that is, until they scolded him for attacking Naruto head on was suicide, as the said Dragon Slayer apologized. After accepting his apology, the others then looked at the dead bodies of Phantom Lord in sadness, sure they hurt their family. But that doesn't mean they wanted them dead, as they blamed themselves for their demise in the first place. And especially Gray, as he was the one who pissed him off for mentioning Naruto's uncle. Silently apologizing to them, Team Natsu plus Elfman turned their attention towards the stairs Naruto took. "So what do we do now?" Gray asked, looking at his teammates. Urza looks at the stairs, then turns her gaze back to her team as she finally decided her choice will be. "I'll say we keep going," she said, gaining the others' attention. "BB, but didn't Oniai-chan said that we'll only be getting in the way?" Kagura said as she looked down towards the ground as the others do the same. But not before Urza stands up as the others look at her again. "I doesn't matter what he said, they attacked our guild, our home, and hurt our friends. As long I still draw a breath, I continue on and fight. What say you? Are you with me?" Urza said as the others smirk at her. "Hell yeah!" Gray said, cracking his knuckles. "I'm fired up!" shouted Natsu. "Hi!" smiled Kagura. Elfman smirked as he gave Urza a thumbs up. "Then let's go," she yelled as she ran towards the stairs that leads to Jose. "Right," they all said in unison as they followed her up the stairs. No matter how hard you tried to push us back, Naruto, we will bring you home and make things right between us. It'll be tough, but we won't give up, that's a promise, Urza thought as she continued on along with her friends following behind her. With Naruto walked up the stairs as he just picked up Gajil's scent followed by Lucy's, but stopped in his tracks as he looked back, sensing Urza and the others were heading to a different direction, in which leads them straight for Jose. Gotta hand it to them, no matter the dangers they face, they'll still fight it head on. Closing his eyes as a small smile appeared in his face before it disappeared, returning to his emotionless expression. But they are still fools. With that he turned back as he continued to walking towards where Gajil and Lucy is. I hope you can give me an interesting fight, son of Metallicana, cause if you don't. Naruto's expression became deadly as he continued, you'll pay for what you have done to Levy, that I promise you. He finished as he disappeared into the darkness, ready for what lays ahead. Lucy was on the floor looking at Phantom Lord's Iron Dragon Slayer Gajil Red Fox, who is a tall and muscular young man with long, black spiky hair, which is usually kept slicked back, revealing his forehead. He has red eyes with dark slit pupils, and has no visible eyebrows. Most of his exposed body is covered in sets of simple, round studs. The most visible studs are on his face, with 3 of them above each of his eyes, 2 on each side of his nose, and 2 on his chin just below his. Lastly, his ears are adorned by 2 sets of 5 earrings each. He sports 4 studs on each of his forearms, with his right one being covered in scars. He bore his Phantom Lord mark at the top of his right shoulder. He is wearing an outfit consists of a shabby black, sleeveless tunic with studded edges, a studded belt around his waist, loose, beige pants tucked inside studded black boots, and a pair of studded brown gloves paired with similarly studded wristbands. He also sports a distinctive wing-like ornament, seemingly made of feathers, jutting upwards, over his right shoulder, attached to his tunic by a large stud. He's wearing the clothes from X791. He stood on the wall with his eyes closed waiting for the salamander, till he opened his eyes looking at Lucy, knowing she was looking at him. Moving from the wall as he headed towards Lucy, who was moving back, keeping her distance from the one who harmed her friend Levy. Gajil saw this as he grinned manically, lifting his right arm, turning it into a giant metal hammer as he slammed it into Lucy's side, causing her cough out blood as she was sent flying into a wall, leaving a dent. Lucy struggled getting up from the attack as she looked at Iron Dragon Slayer with fear in her eyes. Gajil saw this as he licked his lips as he changed his arm again. Instead of having a hammer, he now has a chainsaw. He walked towards her slowly, while she tried to move but couldn't due to the hit he landed on her. She stood helplessly as she couldn't fight back due to them taking her keys. The only thing Lucy could do is hope that someone will come. Gajil was a few steps away from her as he raised his chainsaw arm in the air, widening her eyes as she shut them tight, waiting for the hit. But then suddenly a loud bang echoed throughout the room as she slowly opened her eyes, only for them to widen in awe and shock. In front of her laid Gajil on the ground face first. But what got her attention was a giant ether nano-demonic hand with black scales on top of him. She looked at the hand wondering where did it come from, till she heard steps coming from the darkness of the door. In the darkness came a young man with spiky black hair with a long bang on his forehead. He wore a black high-collar sleeveless indigo shirt, with black baggy cargo pants along with matching black steel-toed boots, and a black cloth covering his left leg. On his chest is covered by 2 straps. That is currently held in place by a badge shaped of a dragon's head, and lastly a black scarf around his neck covering half of his face. But what got her attention was his arm. There was only one person she knows with that arm. Widening her eyes, Lucy recognized the person standing at the other side of the room was none other than Naruto Uchiha. Skylar Khan Titan, 2013 Epic Massive Heavy Powerful Rock Action. Naruto looked at Gajil down with a motionless face as he then sets his eyes at Lucy, who was holding her side with little bit of blood in her lips with tear stains in her eyes. Instant appearing in front of her on one knee. Naruto looking at her straight in the eyes while she looked back, trying her hardest to hold back her blush at how handsome he is. Can you stand? He asked as she responded by nodding her head slowly, lending her his hand which she accepts as he lifted her up on her feet. I'm gonna need you to leave, he said while she widens her eyes. WHW, what are you talking about? What about you? You're no match for H-. She was cut off from her sentence when she the look in his eyes. They were calm, confident, filled with power. That's where you're wrong, Lucy. I am more powerful than this sorry excuse of a dragon slayer, stronger than Jose, stronger than Makarov himself, he stated, He wasn't being cocky, no, he was just confident in his own ability as he continued, "So don't you dare underestimate me or my brother. After all, you should remember to what happened to Urza and the other two," he said while releasing a small amount of K.I., causing Lucy to tremble in his presence. He was right, how could she forget on how powerful Naruto and Ryu are? Cutting off his K.I., Naruto returned his gaze back at Gajil, who was now struggling getting up. "Leave, I have business to take care of," he spoke as Lucy nodded and ran towards the door. She stopped in her tracks as she looked at Naruto one last time. "Kick his ass for me and Levy, and also be careful," she said and smiled as she left. Naruto smirked under his scarf, then dropped it as Gajil finally stood up. Standing on his feet, Gajil turned to look at Naruto with anger in his eyes. But on the inside he felt weary of him, in which he only felt it from Jose and his father Metallicana. "Who the fuck are you?" he shouted / demanded, raising both his magic and K.I. aiming towards the person. But to his surprise it didn't faze Naruto one bit. His anger grew as he raised his arm, changing it into a chainsaw-like blade, then charged towards him. Tetsuyukin. Iron Dragon's sword. He brought down his sword, attempting on cutting Naruto in half. The said devil stood his ground. As he waited, once the blade was close enough, Naruto sidestepped to his right, causing Gajil to miss his mark, cocking his left fist back. Naruto then punched Gajil towards his stomach with force, sending the Iron Dragon Slayer crashing at the other side of the room. "Damn, that hurt." Grunting in pain by the punch, Gajil stood up to his feet as he looked towards Naruto, who was standing at the same spot. "Tch, this guy's no joke. Looks like I'm gonna have to go all out," he muttered to himself as he surrounded himself in dark green ether nano as metal scales appeared covering his entire body. After his magic died down, Gajil smirked maniacally at Naruto. "Tetsuya no Yuroko. Iron Dragon Scales. You don't stand a chance now," he spoke confidently as he did a come-on sign, waiting for Naruto to come at him. During the entire time Naruto looked on with a raised eyebrow, but shrugged it off as he equipped Beowulf. "So you want to go all out, huh? Very well, I will play by your game," he spoke as he gathered a large amount of magic that shook the room as everything was taken by a bright light. When the light died down, there stood Naruto, changed into the same black demonic humanoid with the blue coat. Only this time the blue coat was now vertical, strip like wings with Beowulf's gauntlets, and greaves now a part of him as his body was now covered in glowing white veins. Gajil looked on with wide eyes, while Naruto smirked. "Akuma Tariga, Tamashi no Rado Basudo, Devil Trigger, Soul of the Light Beast," he spoke demonically as he instantly appeared in front of Gajil, delivering 3 powerful punches to the chest, stomach, and face, shattering Gajil's scales with ease. As his scales shattered by the punches, Gajil held strong as he threw a straight right towards Naruto's face. But the devil tilted his head to the side as he then tangled his arm with Gajil's, delivering uppercut towards his unprotected chin, snapping his head back. After the uppercut, Naruto then grabbed Gajil by the neck, only to slam him into the ground, giving him the chance to move out the way. Getting up to his feet, Gajil felt a little wobbly due to the uppercut, but can still continue to fight as he used his magic, repairing his iron scales good as new. After fixing his scales, Gajil then set his sights at Naruto as he took a deep breath, inhaling a fairly large amount of air. "Tetsuya no Hoko. Iron Dragon's Roar." Gajil then proceeded as he released a very powerful gray tornado with white electricity straight towards Naruto. The said devil watched as Gajil's roar headed towards him at great speed. Naruto bent his knees a little as he jumped high into the air, dodging Gajil's the attack rather easily. After dodging the roar, Naruto front flipped towards Gajil while still in the air, as he delivered a dive kick into his face, causing the said Dragon Slayer to recoil. After the kick, Naruto kneels himself, as he cocked his right fist back as Beowulf engulfed itself in shining light. "Rado Basudo Shinryuken. Light Beast Divine Dragon Fist," Naruto roared, as he delivered a powerful spinning uppercut in Gajil's stomach, causing the said Ace of Phantom Lord to widen his eyes in pain as both shot straight into the air while engulfed in a white spiral wind. Naruto smirks darkly as he added more power into his punch, causing the wind that was surrounding them form into a large Shillong dragon. The dragon roared into the heavens as it vanished into the ceiling, showing Naruto landing safely on the ground, while Gajil comes crashing down with angelic feathers falling around them. Naruto looks back at the Dragon Slayer, who's getting back up with some of his iron scales either crack or some of the pieces missing. Song end. Coughing till he puked a glob of blood, Gajil looked at Naruto, sending him a death glare. "Why can't I land a hit on you?" he exclaimed in frustration. "It's quite simple, it's because you're weak, Iron Dragon," he spoke hollowly, as Gajil unleashes a massive amount of K.I. towards at Naruto. "I'll show you weak," he spoke, charging at Naruto with great speed. As he got close, Gajil delivered an iron-covered fist into Naruto's face, resulting the devil to be knocked off his feet. But Gajil wasn't done, as he grabbed Naruto by the foot, pulling him towards him, only for him to deliver another punch into Naruto's face, slamming the said devil onto the ground, putting his knee on top of his chest. Gajil continued to punch Naruto's face repeatedly. While this was happening, Naruto lay there emotionlessly, continuing to let all the punches make its mark. Roaring in rage, Gajil then delivered one last punch, in which resulted Naruto's head to be buried into the floor. Getting up while breathing heavily, Gajil moved back, giving himself some room as he waited to see if Naruto got up. But to his relief, Naruto stayed down, not moving a single muscle, smirking triumphantly. Gajil turned around as he proceeded, heading straight for the door, but not before saying one last comment. "Who's weak now?" "You are, Blue Exorcist Ostkekai." Widening his eyes in shock, Gajil turned around rather quickly, as he took a step back in fear. Standing before him was Naruto, who was still in his D.T. got up unscarred as he looked towards at Gajil while dusting the dirt off his demonic scales. "Is that it?" he spoke, as he received no response from the Iron Dragon Slayer, shaking his head in disappointment. Naruto then proceeded to speak. "If you're not going to continue, then," his cyan irises grew more deadly, "I'll just have to end this battle." Those were his last words, as he appeared in front of Gajil, delivering a right hook to the side of his left cheek, breaking his jaw in the process. But Naruto wasn't finished, as he then delivered an uppercut into Gajil's stomach, in which resulted him being knocked off from his feet. But Naruto wasn't done, as he kneels down a little, engulfing his demonic greaves in bright light. "Nichirinkyaku! Rising Sun!" Naruto yelled as performed a 2/4 motion backward kicks powered by Holy Devil Light. The fist kick launches Gajil upward in the air. Spinning again, the demonic boy delivered the last one, which sent him away, landing safely on the ground. Naruto cocked back his Devil Bringer, engulfing it in Cyan Ether Nano. "Basuda! Buster!" Thrusting his arm forward, a large cyan demonic spiritual hand made of Ether Nano grasped hold of Phantom Lord's ace by the head, pulling his Devil Bringer back. The spiritual one followed his example as Gajil found himself headed towards Naruto till he was within his reach. Once he was close enough, Naruto grabbed the Dragon Slayer by the face, as he began spinning into a full 360 motion at incredible speed. Once Naruto gained enough speed, he then threw Gajil towards the wall, causing the Dragon Slayer to be temporarily immobilized, closing his eyes as he moved his left foot forward and his right back. Naruto then moved both his arms to his right side as he concentrated. Harsh black winds surrounded him in a spiral-like motion, as white lightning showed itself into the mix as a black blazing sphere formed between his palms. Masatsu Denjin Hadaken, annihilating electric blade surge fist. Thrusting his hands forward as a large electrical black fireball was released, heading straight for Gajil. The said Dragon Slayer could only watch helplessly as the large fireball headed straight towards him till he was consumed by it. Gajil howled in pain as the power of the Hadaken both burned/electrocuted him, while at the same time, the wall behind him crumbled, now finding himself flying out the massive construct and into the forest, creating a massive explosion in the distance. Song end. Naruto excited from his D.T. as he looked in the distance where the explosion occurred. That was for Levy. "You sorry excuse of a dragon," those were his last words, as he turned around heading to where the others are and to where Jose Porla is, with Fairy Tail. Urza and the rest of Team Natsu just defeated Arya, the last of the Elemental Four, who was a formidable opponent, especially when he defeated Master Makarov. With the defeat of Arya, Team Natsu moved on ahead, reaching towards their destination. Once they reached the top, the room they entered was suddenly filled with malicious aura that felt like death to them. Urza and the rest of her team fought valiantly, but they didn't stand a chance against Jose, as he simply demolished them with ease. Right now, at this moment, Urza was the only one that's left standing. While the others are either unconscious or too injured to continue, Jose stood in front of her, while she was on her knees holding her side due to one of Jose's dark magic. The said dark mage smirked deviously at the redhead that kneeled before him. Kukuka looks like this is the end for Fairy Tail. Raising his hand, Jose gathered dark energy as he aimed it at Urza's face. Any last words, Titania, he spoke, while all Urza could do was send him a glare. Licking his lips, Jose smirked darkly. Very well, die. Just when he was about to finish her, suddenly a giant cyan skeletal fist burst through the wall, hitting Jose square in the face, sending him crashing towards the other side of the room. Surprised by the sudden attack, Urza looked at the skeletal hand that's in front of her as it began to lessen till it finally faded away. She then heard footsteps coming from the wall where the skeletal hand had came from, as it was too dark to see who it was. That is, until the person coming from the wall spoke, in which she easily recognized. Bleach OSDB 13A. Jose Porla, I've come for you, Naruto spoke as he stepped out of the cloud surrounded in a giant cyan ether nano-skeletal rib cage. Jose got off the wall as he glared at Naruto while dark energy surrounded him. You dare stand in my way? Do you have any idea who I am? The dark mage spoke as Naruto's Susanoo rib cage lessened itself as it finally faded, but still kept his Manjikyu activated. No, I don't, nor do I care. All I see is a dark mage who will lay dead at my feet, nothing more, nothing less, he said calmly, not even bothered by Jose K.I. Looking to his left, he saw Urza on the floor along with the other Fairy Tail mages who were unconscious. I told you to stay out the way, Scarlet, but you did heed my words, no, and for that it almost costed you and your team lives, he said as Urza responded back. And what were we supposed to do? Stand by as he continues to attack our home, hurt those we care about. None of this was supposed to happen if it weren't for him, she said as Naruto shouted, in which all could have been prevented if Makarov had reported this matter to the council in the first place. He said loudly, causing Urza to flinch. If he had taken this to the council would have taken this to the king, and the king would either disband them or send me to deal with it. All of this could have been avoided. Your guild, your Nakama and Levy, they all could have been safe if Makarov wasn't such a fool, he finished as Urza looked down by his words, no matter how much she wants to deny it. But he was right, all of this could have been prevented if Master had taken this to the council. Leave. Urza was cut out of her thoughts as she looks back at him. What? She said as Naruto looks at her, are you deaf? I said leave, you and your team will only get in my way since I can't defend you all while fighting this old pile of shit, he said, not paying attention at Jose who yelled hey. BB, but you. She was cut off when Naruto looked at her angrily. I said begone, Scarlet, or I'll end you where you stand, he said coldly as Urza looks at him in shock as a lone tear shows itself at the corner of her eye. But in the end she complies as she wakes the others and leaves till it was just Naruto and Jose. Hee ha 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 ha. Foolish boy, what makes you think you'll stand any chance against me? Jose laughs hysterically but was cut short when Naruto appeared beside him delivering a roundhouse kick to the face, in which resulted Jose to resemble like a soccer ball crashing towards a wall, burying himself in rubble. Lowering his leg, while looking at Jose annoyed, you talk too much, he said as the air gets dense as Jose broke out of the rubble with a small trail of blood in his lips, wiping the blood off with his sleeve as he looked at it, then looked to glare at Naruto dangerously. Ahaha! Jose roared in anger as he sent a wave of dark magic towards Naruto, who summoned Susanoo rib cage, taking the attack head-on, in which resulted in an explosion. Once the aftermath of the explosion faded, Naruto stood tall, unscarred by Jose's attack. TCH, it seems you have your pathetic grandfather's wretched eyes along that annoying defense of his. Jose spat as felt Naruto released massive K.I. aimed at him. Silence, Ningen. Never speak about my grandfather in front of me, especially since he's someone very dear to me and looked up to. But hearing you speak bad about him angers me. He spoke coldly as he added more power into his Susanoo as it began to take form. Susanoo. With those words leaving his mouth, everything within the room was consumed by cyan ether nano flames. Song end. With Fairy Tail. Everyone in Fairy Tail was outside as they finished with the last of Jose's shades. They now waited for Naruto to finish Jose as Minato and Makarov arrived the same time when Team Natsu arrived from the Phantom's Guild. Susanoo. A voice shouted throughout the area, as everyone from Fairy Tail looked towards the top of Phantom Lord as it was consumed in cyan ether nano flames. The flames lessened as it shot up into the sky like a shooting star till it turned into a massive samurai armored humanoid being with dragon-like wings. Sasuke's Indra Susanoo avatar with Valley Balance Breaker wings, Everyone in Fairy Tail except Ryu were amazed by its beauty, especially with Makoto and Kagura, since both mother and daughter were jealous since they didn't make it far into completing it nor awakening its next level. Naruto's Shippuden OST 3 Martyr. Naruto's Susanoo raised its hand as a long katana made out of ether nano appeared out of thin air. Grabbing the katana, the Susanoo slowly unsheathed its blade, till the massive sword was drawn, revealing a magnificent sharp steel. Amaterasu Naruto covered his left eye as the blade was covered in white-hot flames by the sun goddess herself, raising his hand in the air, while at the same time his avatar followed his movements. Burn into oblivion. Teo no Megami Tatsuka no Ken. Sun goddess Tatsuka sword. He called his technique as Susanoo swing its sword down, annihilating phantom lords construct along with Jose still inside, consuming everything in a massive pillar of the sun goddess flames. Song pause. When Susanoo faded away, Naruto descended down onto the ground in front of Fairy Tail while deactivating his Manjikyu. He looked towards Ryu, who was back in his normal form, landed on top of his head. Both nod to one another as they were ready to leave. But before they could go any further, Naruto then felt someone grasp his shoulder in a tight grip. Turning to look who it was, as he found himself face to face with his former father, who was looking at him in disappointment. Naruto, what you did was unacceptable. You killed a wizard saint along with his guild. Just what were you thinking? That's not how Fairy Tail is. We raised you better than that, Minato spoke, while Naruto continued to look at him in silence. Slowly Naruto grabbed Minato's hand in a tight grip, causing the older blonde to grunt in pain as he was then kicked to the chest, sending him falling towards his wife and daughter. Minato, Tsuyu-chan. Both Makoto and Kagura ran up to him, helping him, the older blonde, to get up. Naruto, what are you doing? He's your father. The Ravenet spoke towards her eldest, who lowered his leg as he gazed at them with an emotionless expression, causing them to feel tense by his look. Father? He began to speak, as his voice became cold and lifeless. Tell me, Makoto, since when have you and Minato considered me your son? Last I remember both of you pretended I never existed. He spoke coldly, as both her and Minato cringed by his words. Then there's Kagura, my dear sister, he continued, as the said purplenet flinched, the one who used to bully me, calling me weak for not able to use magic, he said as she bit her bottom lip, while tears fell from her eyes. And then there's the rest of you, he continued, getting their attention. You lovely bunch, followed Kagura, calling me names along with joining in her bullying. He spoke as his sights turned to look at Mira. Finally there's Strauss, he said as Mira looked at him, both nervously and frightened. The one who I respected, admired and loved, he said, but whispered the last part to himself. The very same one who left me to die on that mountain. One the very same day Lasana died, he announced, causing everyone in the guild to look at him in shock while Mira walked towards him. And Naruto-kun I dash, she said as she tried to touch his face, but was stopped when Naruto grabbed her by the neck as he threw her towards Elfman, who had caught her. This action led everyone except Mira take out their weapons or gathered magic as they all looked at Naruto. The said devil stood tall, with his hair shadowing his eyes as he released his magic to higher levels, as everyone began to sweat bullets. Did you really think a simple apology will ever fix the pain you had caused me that day, along with the fact you accused me for Lisana death, when it was your brother, who couldn't control his full beast takeover, that killed her? He spoke calmly, in which led Mira Jane to burst into tears with her hands covering her face. Shut up! Everyone looked at Natsu, who was glaring at Naruto with his hands blazing with fire. You made Mira cry, and for that I'll never forgive you, Naruto, he said, releasing a massive amount of magic that equally matched Naruto's as everyone agreed with him. Naruto stayed silent till he spoke to his little brother. Ryu, don't interfere, he calmly said as Ryu looked at him confused, till his eyes widened when he looked at Naruto's, which were now lifeless. Shaking his head, the younger sibling chose to step aside. Right, Nisan, the younger sibling spoke silently, as the oldest nodded in gratitude. Closing his eyes, Naruto raised his demonic hand as it enveloped in cyan light, getting his former guild's attention. Once the light had lessened, in Naruto's hand was Virgil's Sparta's Yamato. Slowly grabbing Yamato's hilt, Naruto got into his Dark Slayer stance, in which Makarov easily recognized both. Where did you get that sword? He shouted / demanded, catching his guild by surprise by his outburst except for Naruto, as he stayed silent. Master, do you recognize that sword? because Jose also recognized it and said that it belonged once to a Virgil. Urza said, in which resulted her master to simply nod his head as his expression turned into anger. Yes, that blade is quite dangerous. It once belonged to a devil/human named Virgil Sparta, one of the sons of Dark Knight himself. It said that Yamato resembles a simple katana, but it also said it's capable to cut through anything without effort, and it's even the sharpest blade in the world, especially when it's imbued with tremendous magic, he explained as he nervously swallowed saliva, then continued with his explanation. And witnesses clarified that Yamato is capable of cut through space itself. This was evidenced by many along with throughout the times people have encountered Virgil. The young man utilizes an ability called Judgment Cut, in which he swings so fast that Yamato doesn't appear to even leave its sheath. It creates a distortion in space that engulfs his target, and which resulted by being sliced multiple times by its blade in a very rapid succession. This ability is even capable of hitting any of its enemies that's within a large distortion radius. He finished his explanation as everyone either tense or felt fear by the blade that stood before them. Song play. After Makarov finished his explanation, Naruto closed his eyes as he finally decided to speak, and the only two individuals who ever came close to defeating him were his twin brother Dante and Madara. Uchiha Naruto said, causing his ex-family to widen their eyes at the mention of their grandfather, father-in-law and the strongest mage. Snapping both his eyes open, the young devil was then surrounded in dark ether nanosphere with harsh winds surrounding it. But enough talk, as of today none of you shall forget this devil's power. After saying those words, Naruto instantly transformed into Virgil's Beowulf deity form. The sphere shattered as Naruto disappeared in a dark blue flash, instantly reappeared in front of Natsu. Naruto delivered a 5-punch combination and a roundhouse to the head, sending the fire dragon slayer crashing into gray, disappearing once more, only to appear by delivering a Spartan kick to Minato's face, sending him stumbling. After kicking the blonde, he then backflip kicked Kagura's chin, who was standing next to her father as she was sent high up. He then appeared into the center where he was surrounded by a large group of fairy tale mages, grabbing Yamato, which was tied to his left hip. The Dark Slayer then instantly unsheathed Yamato, holding it in a reverse grip as he slammed its blade into the ground. Gensher. Atomic. Suddenly a massive shockwaves of pure darkness pushed away more than half its members, thus resulting them losing consciousness due to the power behind the attack, pulling Yamato from the ground. Naruto quickly used it to block a sword that was aimed at his back. His assailant was none other than Urza Scarlet in her Heaven Wheel armor. Naruto-kun, please stop this? I don't wish to fight you, Urza pleaded, only for Naruto to respond as he roared hollowly at her. He pushed her back in order for him to move out the way when a massive sword hit the ground where he once stood, landing safely away. He looked towards his right, saw his former mother using her full-armored Susanoo, sheathing Yamato away into its scabbard. Naruto charged towards the raven-haired as his demonic greaves were surrounded in holy demonic light. Kiku 13. Kick 13. Unleashing a fury of devastating kicks till the last 2 kicks sends him high up. The blue devil managed to destroy the Yada mirror, leaving Mikoto's Susanoo wide open. While in the air, Naruto then comes crashing down towards Mikoto with a kick covered in light demonic magic like a falling star, Hoshi Uranai. Starfall. Once the kick made contact with her Susanoo, the raven-haired MILF eyes widen in shock as her ultimate defense shatters into pieces by the force of the kick. With her Susanoo gone, Naruto then dashed towards her, delivering a knee shot to the stomach, causing her to puke a glob of saliva. But Naruto wasn't done, as he used his Nichirinkyuku, sending Mikoto a few feet into the air, only to find herself slammed back down by a large ether nano hand, knocking her out in the process. Disabling his buster, Naruto looked towards his former mother unconscious form in disappointment. Kaminari Meiho no Hakai Ken. Lightning magic, breakdown fist. Crouching down immediately, Naruto manages to easily dodge Minato's lightning-covered fist, grabbing Minato's lightning-covered outstretched arm as dark winds surrounded both he and Naruto. Dibairu Surya Oji, Masatsu Tatsumaki Garasen. Devil Slayer Secret Technique. Annihilating Tornado Strong Spiral. Naruto called his attack, as he delivers a devastating quarter-circle motion backward kicks into the blonde, creating a violent spiral tornado. Once the tornado diminishes, revealing a badly damaged Minato on the ground. Landing safely away on his feet, Naruto suddenly found himself covered in shade from where he stood. Looking up, The blue devil sees Makarov's giant foot descending as he attempted to crush him. Raising both his arms up, Naruto manages to catch Makarov's foot as the ground beneath him crumbles due to the force behind the stomp. As he held Makarov's foot in place, Naruto's enhanced hearing picked up on something coming towards him fast. Looking to his right, the Dark Slayer sees Levy's former teammate running towards him at high speed. Seeing Naruto kept in place, Jet grinned as he ran faster, making look like a blur, as he cocked his fist back attempting to punch the devil in the face. Growling in annoyance, Naruto roared hollowly as he pushed Makarov's foot out the way, causing the said master to fall. After getting Makarov out of the way, Naruto quickly turned around as he delivered a light-covered haymaker into Jet's face, fracturing it in the process. After knocking out the speed mage, the devil mage suddenly found himself enveloped in light. Turning around, the young devil's demonic cyan irises widened in shock as Makarov was also covered in light. The said wizard saint clapped both his hands together as he silently chanted, "I invoke Fairy Row. Fairy Law." After those words left his mouth, a massive seal appeared in the sky as both he and Naruto were enveloped in a bright light along with the area around them. Song end, where the others are. Where is that light coming from? Alzak said as he covered his eyes due to how bright the fairy law is. Ugh, it's so bright? Biska agreed with her crush as the rest of fairy tale mages covered their eyes. This is fairy law, Urza said, causing Kagura to widen her eyes while the others were confused. What is that? Gray asked as Elfman, Mirajane and Natsu stood beside him. But before Urza could say anything, it was Kagura who spoke. A spell that vanquishes darkness with sacred light, in which it only affects who the caster sees as their enemy. It's one of the 3 great fairy magics and legendary spells in existence, Kagura said in sadness as tears fell from her eyes. And right now Master is using it against Naruto, she said, falling on her knees, causing the others to widen their eyes in shock. Where Ryu is at the same time, just behind Team Natsu along with the 2 Strauss siblings. We find the younger sibling sitting on top of a boulder, as he heard Kagura explain to what fairy law does. Chuckling to himself, the young dragon shook his head while smirking darkly at the bright light. Foolish old man, you have no idea what you've done, that is all, he said as the light begins to diminish. Back with Makarov and Naruto. As the light finally diminishes, Makarov, still in his Titan form, stood tall while on the opposite side of him was Naruto, who was still in his Beowulf DT form on the ground as the demonic lights on his body along with his cyan irises were dark. Taking a deep breath, Makarov looked up at the open sky. It's over, muttering to himself, that is, until he saw Urza and the others ran towards him. Old man, you did it, Natsu said with a smirk on his face, while the others congratulated him. Kagura walked up to her master, till she stood in front of him. Master, she spoke as she looked towards Naruto's down form, while Makarov closed his eyes. Kagura-chan, the brat didn't leave me a choice, so using the Fury Row was the best choice I have into finishing him. But it's the biggest mistake you've ever made, Ryu spoke, getting their attention. Ryu, it's over, Naruto lost. There is no reason for us to fight, but if you continue, I will not hesitate to end you, Makarov spoke as the others got into stance, while Ryu shook his head towards them. Foolish old man, whoever said Naruto lost, Ryu said. What are you tell? Whatever the third master was about to say was cut off when massive I enveloped all around them. Makarov, Team Natsu and the remaining members of Fairy Tail slowly turned to look behind them, only for their eyes to widen in shock. Standing in front of them was none other than unscathed Naruto, who was still in his DT form, but was different about him was that his entire body is enveloped in light with a mix of blue and black. Buerup, excuse me, couldn't help myself since that's the most delicious meal I've ever had, Naruto spoke as he instantly vanished, only to reappear in front of Makarov, who was still shocked to move as a large black sphere made contact into his face. Debiru Surya Oji. Go Hado Rasengan. Devil Slayer Secret Arts. Great Surge Spiral Sphere. As the Rasengan made contact, the entire top half of Makarov's body was enveloped in a massive flaming sphere till a massive explosion occurred. Once the explosion diminished, Makarov laid on the ground in his original form unconscious as Naruto towered over him. Dark clouds covered the sky, as lightning flashed from the heavens as Naruto roared hollowly, causing a shockwave from where he stood. On instinct, he raised both his hands as he easily caught both Kagura's and Urza's sword/katana with his bare hands. He looked at Urza, who glared at him, then to Kagura, who has her Sharingan active. Turning his head to look forward, Naruto chuckled hollowly as both girls raised their eyebrows as he held their sword in a tight grip. Debairu Surya Oji, Shinshin Goku Satsu, Devil Slayer Secret Arts. Wrath of the Raging Demon. Urza and Kagura were confused at first, until they both shout in pain when an unknown amount of hit sparks flashed, enveloping their bodies. Once his attack ended, both young beauties fall down onto the ground unconscious, due to the amount of pain they had just experienced. After they fell, Naruto dropped their blades as he then caught a punch, and which was aimed towards his face. Looking to his left, Naruto saw Natsu, who was grinning at him as he moved out the way, thus confusing the devil. Ice Akayanon! Ice Make! Ice Cannon! Widening his eyes, Naruto turned as he saw Gray fire a massive ice ball towards him. With no time to move, Naruto crossed both his arms as he blocked the attack as an explosion took place from where he stood. Following their plan, Natsu then fired a Karya no Hoko towards the explosion, causing it to be even bigger. Think we got him? Natsu said as he stood beside Gray, who threw his ice cannon to the side as it shattered once it touched the ground. I don't know. Only one way to find out, Gray spoke, as he summoned his ice Excalibur while Natsu enveloped his hands in fire. Masatsu go Hadu, Agio. Annihilating Great Surge. Open-mouthed form. A voice echoed as both Ice Mage and Dragon Slayer look up to see hundreds of large purple fireballs raining down on them. Natsu behind me, Gray exclaims, as Natsu got behind him as the Ice Mage casts a spell, Shirudo. Ice Make, Shield. A massive shield made out of ice appeared in front of both Gray and Natsu as the fireballs finally made contact with his shield. Shit! The shield can't take much more of this. Gray grunted as he tried his best to maintain his shield by the amount of fireballs coming at them. Keep it together, Gray, said Natsu as he encouraged his rival to stay strong. By the time the Hadas stopped coming, Gray dropped his shield as he catches his breath, while Natsu was patting him on the back. But sadly their rest was cut short, as Naruto appeared knocking Gray out, by chopping him on the neck as he then delivers a high kick towards Natsu's chin, sending the fire mage crash down onto the ground. Groaning in pain, Natsu stood up to his feet as he looked around, only find everyone unconscious, showing it was just him and Naruto. Song end. Bleach OST 3-17 Soundscape to Ardor. Why? Natsu began getting Naruto's attention. Why? Just tell me. Why are you doing this, Naruto? He said, looking at Naruto in the eyes. Naruto looked at Natsu silently till he finally responded. Because you fairy tale mages disgust me, he said emotionlessly, causing Natsu to tighten his fist. What? He shouted. If you don't get it, then let me explain it to you. When I told all of you that Strauss left me for dead on that mountain, you all brushed it off like nothing. But I wouldn't be surprised, since that's the fairy tale way. You defend one another, always have each other's back, but you never had mine. No, you did the opposite. You all abandoned me, he said as he looked at Natsu in rage. Natsu looked at him with sad expression, knowing what he said is true, but Naruto wasn't done, and for that I will never forgive any of you as long as I live. And with that both Natsu and Naruto charged. As both met at the center, they engaged in all-out hand-to-hand combat, in which Naruto easily dominated. As each punch Natsu throws, Naruto blocks it and delivers it twice as hard. The fight has been going on for 10 minutes, as Naruto then uppercuts Natsu, sending the fire mage high up, but was then slammed down on the ground when Naruto grabbed his leg. As he laid face first, Natsu struggled getting up, but proved useless due to his injuries, so instead, he turns and lays on the ground looking at Naruto, who deactivates his DET. Both stared at each other until Natsu broke the silence. End it? He said, as Naruto stood silently until he summoned Yamato, unsheathed it from its scabbard. Naruto held the blade up as Natsu closed his eyes, waiting for his end. Thud! Opened his eyes, Natsu turned his head to his left to see Yamato impaled on the ground next to his head. Confused by the sudden action, Natsu then looked back at Naruto. Why? Because you're not worth killing, and I also can have the Fire Dragon King bitching at me cause I killed his brat, he said thought, while Natsu had tears coming from the corners of his eyes. He then looked up in sky as clouds passed by. Will there ever be any chance for you to forgive us? He said hopefully, but sadly it was not meant to be, as he felt Naruto grab his scarf, lifting him up as he looked at him in the eyes. Not a chance in hell, he said coldly as he headed Natsu, knocking him out. Dropping his body to the side, Naruto then sensed two signatures coming towards him. he turned around only for his eyes to widen when he sees the person he hasn't seen in over 5 years. "Hello, Levy?" He spoke. The now named Levy stood at 5 feet 4 inches with a nice figure, along with beautiful heart-shaped face and brown-color eyes. She has long blue hair that reached past her neck with 2 bangs on each side of her face. She was covered in bandages on her forehead, neck, and both her arms. She was dressed in an orange dress shirt that reached below her crotch area with black tight yoga-like pants and orange shoes. Levy looks at Naruto with tears flowing down, as she smiles softly at him. "Naruto-kun." Naruto was standing in front of precious people with wide eyes. "Hello, Levy-chan," said Naruto as he walked towards Levy, who is being assisted by Lucy because of her injuries. Levy looked at Naruto with teary eyes. She looked at Lucy, letting her know that she can walk. Lucy nodded, understanding her friend's decision, and let Levy limp towards Naruto. Once both were within arm's reach, Naruto pulled her in a loving embrace in which she returned, but then she smacked him upside the head, surprising Ryu, Lucy and Natsu, who is still on the ground. Naruto fell on the ground, rolling around while holding his head, trying to ease the pain. After a while he finally eased the pain. "Fuck, Levy-chan, what was that for?" he said when he looked at her and saw her glaring at him while still crying. "Levy-chan? Don't you dare Levy-chan me. Do you have any idea how worried I was? I thought you were kidnapped, missing, or worse, dead," she exclaimed as she cried more as Naruto flinched at her outburst, knowing he screwed up big time. "Levy," he said, getting her attention, "I'm so sorry I had you, Bachan, and Kushine worried I was gonna come back. It's just," he said as he was trying to find the best way to explain it to her. "Shinjitsu no Yuta Inuyasha ending 5 full. Just what? What was keeping you from coming back to us knowing that you were still alive?" she demanding an explanation. He sighs as he was about to explain when he just realized something or someone was missing. He looked around, then back at her. Levy-chan. Where's Kushine? It's not like her to leave you by yourself. Usually she's always with you. Since both of you are inseparable," he asked as Levy flinched, in which he didn't miss as he then grabbed her by the shoulders gently, not trying to make her injuries any worse than it is. "Hello, Levy, where's Kushina?" he said, now showing a little bit of fear while Levy shadowed her eyes from him as tears fall from them. "I am so sorry, Naruto-kun. I don't know how to tell you this, but Kushina died 2 years ago," she said, while Naruto let go of her, taking a few steps back with his eyes widen in shock. How did this happen?" he asked while she bit her lower lip. "Ever since you went missing for a year, she did quest non-stop without taking a break or resting. She tried to find you. God, she did, but she couldn't find any leads to your whereabouts. Until one day she came home sick and injured. I took her to see poorly Yusuke-bachan only for her to discover that she had a disease." What kind of disease?" he said, reading himself for the worst. Levy looked at him in the eye. "It was magic deficiency disease. It causes the recipient to fall ill from the rapid loss of their magic power, which can either be from using a massive amount all at once or having it drained from another person. In dire cases, the disease can cause death if deprived enough of their ether nano. But that didn't stop her. She never gave up as she fought the disease for 3 long years, but her body finally gave up on her as she passed the next day," she explained to him as tears fell while he closed his eyes, shaking in disbelief. "First Madara Gigi, and now I lost Kushina-chan. I should have came back to let them know I still lived, and yet," he thought as he looked at Levy. Did she say anything? Before she died, anything at all?" he asked, as Levy raised both her hands on both sides of his face, smiling sadly. "Her last words were that she wanted to see your smiling face one last time," she said as everyone was taken by surprise, even Ryu, when they saw he had small drops of tears on his face. Naruto looked at Levy and grabbing her hands, gently laying them down while still holding them, causing her to blush a little. Lucy watched the scene in slight jealousy. Ryu watched what was happening and chuckled to himself while Naruto was looking at Levy. Where was she buried? "I would like to go visit her alone," he said while trying not to show any more weakness than he already did. She was about to retort until he cut her off. "Don't worry, I will explain my reasons at Bachan's." He then looked at his brother. "Ryu, go with her, I won't take long," he told him while Ryu nodded, understanding his brother's decision. He then looked at Natsu coldly. "What you saw never happened, got that salamander," he said as Natsu nodded his head, understanding. He then turned to Levy, waiting for her answer while she looked at him for a second but complied. "She is where your grandfather is, you know, that way you can visit them both at the same time," she said as he nodded and hugged her, whispering thank you. She smiled, returning the embrace. With Naruto After telling Levy that he'll meet her at Bachan's home, promising to tell her everything including to what happened the day he disappeared, he moved some bushes out the way to see a beautiful sight that lay before him. In front of him was a clear lake surrounded by a plain open field with trees and a clear view of a couple of mountains. In the center of the field close to the lake was a sakura blossom tree with 2 gravestones, one that looked older, while the other slightly new. He walked towards them, getting closer with each step as his legs began to feel weak. Once he stood in front of them, he fell on his knees looking at both of their names engraved on them. Madara Uchiha, born 709, died 778. May he be remembered as a father, grandfather, a friend. May he watch over us in the heavens. He will be missed. R.I.P. He smiled and looked to his right as his smile fell at the other grave. Kushina Uzumaki, born 760, died 782. May she be remembered as a daughter, a sister, and a friend. May she look after us in the heavens above. She will be missed. R.I.P. He looked at it saddened, but then heard noises and looked towards the lake and saw his 7-year-old self, who has short black spiky hair, younger Obito's hair, wearing a blue shirt, black cargo shorts with blue shinobi sandals, sitting at the docks in front of the lake while throwing rocks in it. He gets up and moves towards his younger self. As he got closer, he then felt someone pass by him and was surprised to see a man about the same height as him with long grayish and blackish color hair, with a young-like face with a few old wrinkles, onyx color eyes, tannish color, skin, lean, built as a welterweight boxer or a Olympic track runner. He is wearing a black traditional kimono robe with matching black kimono pants, called hakamas, tied with a white obi belt in the waist, and white tabi sock with matching set of sandals, finally with the Uchiha insignia on the back. In front of him is his grandfather Madara Uchiha. Naruto? He said, getting his 7-year-old self attention. What are you doing here by yourself, my boy? He said as little Naruto looked at him, then back at the lake. Madara frowned a bit and sat down next to him. They both looked at the lake as comfortable breeze passed by them. Madara broke the silence. What's wrong, Naruto? He said as Naruto took a deep breath. I asked Tusan and Ka-san if they can train me, but they said they were busy training Kagura already. He said, saddened, but suddenly felt a hand on his head and looked at his grandfather, who was smiling at him. Don't worry, Naruto, if your parents aren't willing to train you, then I will personally magic. Or not anyone can become stronger. If you have those you cherish most, then you will truly know what it means to be strong, he said, making Naruto water up. Really, GGG. He said as his grandfather nodded his head as he got up and walked away, but stopped and looked at Naruto. Come. Naruto got up and saluted to his grandfather. Hi, Gigi, he said as he ran to catch up to him. While that was happening, the older Naruto was watching the whole scene with a small smile. Even when my family have forgotten me, I always had you to care for me, Gigi, he said, remembering more about him, all the good times they had, but all that changed on that day. Flashback. In the middle of day, close to sunset, in a room in his grandfather's house stood a 12-year-old, soon to be a 13-year-old Naruto, with his hair now longer and spikier, Naruto's Shippuden hair, wearing a white high-collar shirt with black cargo shorts and black shinobi-like sandals. During the 5 years he was training under his grandfather's teachings, which was hell, that's what he thought at first. But in the end it made him strong enough he could ever imagine. During his time of training, he and his grandfather created a father and son bond which he was happy to have. Over the years the relationship Naruto had with his family had completely become worse, finding out that his parents pretended he no longer existed while only thinking they had Kagura. Speaking of her, she later began to treat her older brother like dirt, and beat him as others kids from the guild followed her lead in her mistreatment of him. When his grandfather found out about the situation his grandson was receiving from both his family and guildmates, he marched straight towards Fairy Tail and showing everyone why he earned the name Shinigami and the strongest saint in all of Fiori. After scolding them, he then announced to Mikoto that she was no longer his daughter in front of the guild. Mikoto was devastated by the declaration and tried to speak, only for her to be silenced by her father's killing intent, as he then left the guild without a word, and that was 4 years ago. Now we find him looking at his grandpa, who lied in bed coughing out blood badly. Can I get you anything, Gigi? He asked worriedly as Madara tried to subdue his illness. After a minute Madara was able to calm down and looked at his grandson with a smile. Thank you, my boy, but there's nothing that I want rather to have you by my side. He fake smiled. No, very well, he's running out of time. Naruto, my boy, I want you to do one favor for me in case I will no longer walk in the land of the living. Come on, Gigi, don't talk like that. Why you're gonna get better, you'll see, your G gonna be just fine. Hey, once you get back to health, how about we go fishing just like we always do? he said as he struggles to maintain his tears. While Naruto was talking, Madara was trying to subdue his tears, knowing full well Naruto won't take his death very well. "Yeah, we'll go fishing just like old days," he said while Naruto raised his pinky finger. "Promise," he said as Madara chuckled a little and raised his towards Naruto's promise. He then looked at the window to see the sun setting, then looked back at Naruto. "It's getting dark now, Naruto, how about you come visit tomorrow? That okay with you? Hi Gigi." He hugged him, not knowing this will be the last hug he will ever have. "See you tomorrow, Gigi." He waved at him as he left. After Naruto had gone home, Madara looked at his hands as they were shaking. He then looked at the window, enjoying the view in his last moments. "Forgive me, Naruto, this may be the last time we will get to see each other, but not before I do something first." He takes out a pen and paper, writing down for his grandson. After minutes of writing, he finally finished it. He then set the paper in a small envelope and wrote Naruto's name on it. He laid the envelope on the desk next to him, as he lied down, drifting off to sleep as darkness claimed him. Next day, a perfect morning day, as a happy Naruto was walking towards his grandfather's home with a fishing rod and some live bait, worms. Once there, he took off his shoes and went inside, heading towards his room. Opening the door, "Hey Gigi, are you feeling any dash?" He stopped dead in his tracks as he sees his grandfather in the floor with little bit of blood in his lips and eyes closed. He ran towards by his side, shaking him repeatedly. Hey. JGGWW, wake up, PP, please wake up. WW, weren't we gonna go fishing? Why you promised me you never break your promises. GG. He stopped shaking his grandfather as he then cried on his chest. Few hours of crying, he stopped by standing up to his feet, grabbing his grandfather's arm, wrapping it around his shoulder. Naruto then lifted Madara's body onto the bed with little problem. After minutes of struggling, he finally managed laying the only person that cared about him onto the bed, covering him with the bed sheets all the way to his chest. Naruto stepped back, looking at his grandfather, heartbroken. Moving his head to the left, he saw a small envelope with his name on it. He picked it up, opening it, and read on what it said. "Dear Naruto, if you are reading this letter, then that means that I have passed to the afterlife. Do not be sad, my boy. I knew my time was about to come sooner or later, but as I had a good life, I married a wonderful woman who gave birth to me a beautiful child, and the same day I lost my wife. It has saddened me that the love of my life is gone, but she left me something that I cherish very dearly, that even I named her after her mother. As time passed, I watched my baby girl grew up to be a beautiful young woman like her mother as the years passed by. Then 3 years later, at the age of 17, she then met your father. They got along very well for each other, that it reminded of me and her mother. I was saddened that my baby girl is moving on with her life, as 2 years later she got married to your father Minato. I still remember that I once told Minato if he ever hurt Mikoto, I would burn his balls to ashes with the flames of Amaterasu, while I laughed while doing it. Good times. Then the big day came, the day you came into this world. I remember the day when I first carried you into my arms. You grabbed my hair and pulled it, which it hurt, but it made you smile. But the doctors have announced that you were born with a very rare illness that caused your body to unable to manifest ether nano, as you will not be able to use magic. But it didn't bother me, as either did your parents, as we still loved you even with or without magic. Then there is your sister Kagura. On much she looked like you, mother. She will grow up to be a beautiful young woman, but after the years passed by, as I saw the way the other children or your sister and your parents treated you, I was displeased the way my Mikoto and Minato treated you. I did not raise such a child only so that she can neglect her oldest child just because he cannot use any magic, and for that I am disappointed in her. It pained me when I have completely cut all ties with her along with the rest of the family, along with the guild. It hurt even more as I saw the look of her face. It truly pained my heart than you can ever imagine. But even after all the bullying and mistreatment, and the neglecting, it had to be done. Even after everything that has happened, you never gave up. Even without the use of magic, you still tried to grow strong to prove those wrong, and show that everyone can be just as strong without magic or powers. That is the reason why I took you as my student, not because I pity or being my grandson. No, it was because I see myself in you, Naruto. You will go far, my boy, far beyond that I will ever go. Don't ever lose sight of yourself. Remember what I taught you. I have one last task I want you to do. I want you to go see poorly Yusuka. Let her know of my passing, and to tell her to take my eyes and keep them safe, as I want you to have them. I have a feeling you will one day need of them. Tell her to implant them into you, or whenever you feel you are ready. If you are thinking that the Sharingan will need magic to activate, then you mistaken, as they can still function with or without magic. Take care of them, as I can only trust both of you with my eyes. Make sure to never speak no one of this. Those eyes have unimaginable power. If it will ever fall in the wrong hands, then I fear for the ones who will ever encounter the individual with those eyes. I hope my death doesn't affect you, Naruto. You are young and have so much to learn. I am sorry I couldn't keep my promise. As I pass to the afterlife, I will always watch over you in spirit. Grow strong, my little maelstrom, grow strong and prove those wrong that you aren't weak. I will always love you. Sincerely, your Gigi. Naruto closed the letter and fell on his knees and cried to the one who truly believed in him, not realizing his eyes have changed to blood red. Next day. It was a dark and rainy day as we find Naruto, who stood in front of the lake, in the middle of the field that he and his grandfather go for fishing or training. He wore a full black traditional funeral kimono. He looked up at the sky, closing his eyes as raindrops fall on his face. As he opens them, instead of having blue sapphire color eyes, they were replaced with crimson blood red, with 2 black tomos in one eye and other had 1 tomo. I promise you, Gigi, I will not disappoint you, he said as he walked towards his home. Flashback end. Naruto opens his eyes as he was in front of Madara's grave. He raised his hand, gathering his Devil Slayer magic, as his entire hand was consumed in a bright purple light. Once it died down, in his hand laid a glowing violet rose with black thorns, as he then laid it down at the grave. I still miss you, Gigi. He then looked at Kushina's grave. Forgive me, Ne-chan, for not coming back to let you know I still lived. Then you would still be alive right now. It's just I don't know what was I thinking. Maybe I was just afraid that you, Levy and Ba-chan, would abandon or be afraid of me, for I have become I. Still remember that day we met. It was just a few months after Gigi's funeral, and the day you just joined Fairy Tail, he said, remembering back when they first met. Flashback. In the middle of the open field where a sakura blossom tree blooms with the wind, next to it is a brand new gravestone that has the name Madara Uchiha. We find a just now turned 13-year-old Naruto doing his normal 7:30 a.m. morning training routine. Over the few months after his grandfather's death, Naruto continued to train on what his grandfather instructed on one of his scrolls he left behind just in case if he ever passed in his office. On the day that Madara died, Naruto found out he had awakened his Sharingan thanks to poorly Yusuka when he told her of his passing. As months went by and the long hard work of blood, sweat and tears, he has developed some muscle for his age, a well lean built form for durability, reflex, endurance, speed, stamina, strength and agility. Even to awaken another tomo, in which made him have 2 tomos on both eyes. Ha! Throwing a punch at the wind and a roundhouse kick, but he wasn't done yet. After he threw the roundhouse, he used the same leg to double kick at his invincible opponent in the left side of his liver, followed by the left side of his knee, then finishing with a double roundhouse to the right side of the abdomen and to the head. After the final kick, Naruto relaxed as he took a deep breath, smiling a little. Well, that's it for today. He then walked towards the sakura tree, sitting on the spot where most of the shade is after a long 3.5-hour training in a hot sunny day. As he sat on the floor leaning against the tree, he then drifted off to sleep. 3 hours later, Naruto started to wake up after a long nice rest. He sat up stretching and yawning. He opened his eyes and blinked a few times and saw a girl who was in middle teens, that is 5 feet 7 inches tall, with a well-developed body for her age. She has a C-cup that is about to be D-cup, breast well-toned, slender athletic legs and wide hips, a well-perfect firm ass. She has a heart-shaped face with light blue color eyes, creamy skin, tan color with pink kissable lips, and a beautiful long red hair that reached all the way to her mid-back. She was wearing black pants with a red t-shirt that hugged her body, showing everyone on how well she is developed. Right now she was in front of Naruto, looking at him in curiosity, while the same is happening with Naruto as he was staring at her in confusion. While they stared at each other, one of them had managed to break the awkward silence. "Hey, what are you doing out here all by yourself?" asked the mysterious girl with her head tilted to the side, making Naruto blush a little at how beautiful she looked. "Training? Who are you anyways? I haven't seen you around here before, if you don't mind me asking," he asked, as the girl then smiled and got up and pointed at herself with her thumb. "My name is Kushina Uzumaki, and I'm a new member of Fairy Tail Database." I know that's Naruto word, but he's not Kushina's son, so and this is her word. Naruto looked at her in surprise, then smiled and got up, raised his hand for her to shake. "Nice to meet you, Kushina. My name is Naruto Uchiha." She accepted his handshake while grinning foxily. "Nice to meet you too, Naruto." He then grinned back. It was on this day that Naruto has found someone to call a friend, and yet not realizing somewhere along the way he will meet his tragic end. Flashback end. Naruto smiled happily as he does the same rose, but only this time it was light blue instead of purple, and laid it down in his sister's grave. I'm so sorry, Nachan, it's because of me that you're gone. If I just came back then you wouldn't be gone. I don't deserve your forgiveness, he said as he laid his hand on top of her grave. Rest in peace, Nachan. Standing up to his feet, he turned around, walking towards Bachan's home. As he continued towards Bachan's, a light breeze passed by him, making him stop froze in place, as he felt two slender arms wrap around his neck from behind, while hearing a familiar voice. Baka Otoro, the thing is I already forgive you, whispering a feminine angelic voice. He quickly turned around to see someone that almost made him choke. Even if it was just an instant, he saw his older sister in all but blood, giving him the most beautiful smile he had ever seen, disappearing with the wind, following by a large number of sakura blossom leaves. Naruto looked around trying to find her, but to no avail. He looked up at the sky smiling as tears streamed down from his eyes. Arigato, Nachan, arigato, he said as he continued towards poorly Yusuka's home, not knowing both his sister and grandfather were standing at the side of the tree smiling at him. Song end. Closed by poorly Yusuka home. Naruto walked towards his grandmother in all but blood's home. While wiping some of the tears off his face, he thought about how they will take the truth. Once he made it in the clearing, he sees a tree/house. He walked towards the door, taking a deep breath. Well, here goes nothing, he knocked as he then heard shouts coming from inside. I swear if it's both of you again, Makarov/Minato, I will personally beat both you down with my fry, Naruto, said poorly Yusuka as she saw her missing grandson in all but blood standing in front of her alive and well. It's been a long time, Bachan, he said, tilting his head side as the frying pan missed his face. I told you not to call me that, she shouted as he chuckled, but was cut off when she gave him a motherly hug in which he returned back. I was worried that we wouldn't see you again, my boy, she sobbed as he rubbed her back, calming her down, in which she nodded in gratitude, and they separated. You can come in, Levy and your brother are waiting inside as you got some explaining to do, she said. Yeah, he said as they both go inside. Inside, Naruto looked at Ryu, who was sleeping on Levy's lap while she was petting him. She giggled but soon stopped as she saw Naruto and poorly Yusuka enter the room. I see that you're enjoying yourself, he said as he then looked at Levy. Bandages. How's your injuries, Levy-chan? He asked as she looked at herself at her injuries. I'll live, it doesn't hurt like the other day, she reassured him as he nodded, then sat in a chair. And your friend Lucy? She went home. She wanted to get some rest after what happened today. He nodded as he then looked at both of them. Well, I guess since we're all here, might as well explain my reasons on why I didn't want to come back, he said, getting both their full attention. Well, it started on the day that Lisanna died. Flashback. It was dark in the snowy mountain as the village was evacuated by a small group of fairy tale mages as the beast was closing in on them, as he was suddenly intercepted by that very same small group of mages. The battle was ferocious as the fairy tale mages were struggling to keep the beast at bay as they waited for the village to finish being evacuated. Roar! Roared the gigantic beast, and in front of him is a hurt and battered 14-year-old Mirajane, and also a 14-year-old Naruto, who was holding his katana with his now 3-tomo Sharingan blazing at the beast. A flamingo came flying towards Mira and Naruto as the animal grew white, changing into a girl with short white hair. This was 12-year-old Lisanna. Mira, are you alright? Said Lisanna. Other than my arm, I'm alright, Lisanna, said Mira as Lisanna then looked around, then back at Mira. Mirane, where's Elfman? He's over there. She points at the monster. That's Elfman, she exclaimed as Naruto then looked at her. Elfman tried to control the beast with his full body takeover, but the beast proved to be much more resistant and bested him, and now he's going on a rampage, explained Naruto as the beast roared again. He tensed, but then he saw Lisanna walked past him heading towards Elfman. Lisanna! What are you doing? Exclaimed Mirajane as her little sister was getting closer and closer to Elfman. I'm going to talk to him. Trying to clam him down. No! Stay away from him. Find somewhere safe quick. But Lisanna ignored her as she got close, getting her possessed brother's attention. Hey big brother, remember me? It's me, your little sister Lisanna, and Myra's is here too. How about you come back to us, so we can all go home together, she said, smiling happily. Lisanna, get out of there please, exclaimed Mira. Elfman roared as he raised his hand ready to swat Lisanna away. Lisanna, move! Naruto ran up towards Lisanna, pushing her out the way, shocking her in the process. During the time he pushed her, he then looked at Elfman just in time to see him swat him away. The girls watched as Naruto was sent flying with a large scar in his chest by Elfman's attack. Naruto, shouted Lysana as she looked back at Elfman who was roaring. She then went back trying to calm him down. Naruto grunted as he struggled to get up to his feet. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. He looked at his wound to see it bleeding, not too serious by the looks of it, but he still put his hand on it trying to stop the bleeding. Lysana! He quickly looked up, widening his eyes just in time to see the younger Strauss being swatted away by her older brother to the other side of the snowy woods. He widened his eyes as he then looked at Mira. Mira, go to her quickly, I will handle Elfman. Mira looked at him like he was crazy. Just go, he shouted, scaring her a little but complied. She summoned her wings and flew to where her sister is. Elfman saw this and was about to attack her, but he suddenly found Naruto cut him across the face, making blood gush out. He roared in pain as he looked at Naruto with rage in his eyes. Naruto got into his sword stance, looking at Elfman with his Sharingan glaring right back at him. Sorry big guy, but I have to do this in order to bring you back to normal, he said as he charged at him. Since Naruto knew that Elfman was as slow when he attacks, so he headed straight for the legs. Elfman roared, raising his hand up, slamming it down at Naruto, trying to crush him. But Naruto saw this and rolled out the way, then continued to go for the legs. Once he was close enough, he slashed at Elfman's plantaris, making him roar in pain as he fell on one knee. Naruto saw this chance and ran up, jumping on the beast's knee and grabbed on to one of his horns on the side of his face. Both Naruto and Elfman looked at each other's eyes as Naruto's Sharingan started spinning. Sharingan, sleep! He exclaimed as Elfman started to feel a little lightheaded and began to shake off the dizziness. Naruto jumped away as he saw his fellow guildmate started to fall asleep with the help of his eyes. A few seconds later he watched Elfman falling forward into the ground asleep. He watched as Myra's little brother begin to change into his normal self. He sighed in relief that it was finally over, but was cut short when he heard Mary Jane scream. He quickly ran towards the scream. In the snowy woods, Naruto continued to run where Mary Jane and Lysana are. As he was a clearing up ahead, he ran faster. Once he made it into the clearing, he saw white particles float up in the air and disappear. He then saw Mira on her knees crying her heart out with Lysana nowhere in sight. Naruto didn't know what happened, but he walked towards Mira. And Mira, are you okay? He said, but she didn't say anything as she continued to cry. Naruto didn't know what to do as he put a hand on her shoulder. Mira, where's Lysana? He said, but he felt the hairs at the back of his neck raise up. He quickly jumped back just in time to dodge Mira's attack. Mira, what the hell are you doing? He shouted / demanded, but Mira didn't say anything as she changed into her Satan soul form, disappearing in blinding speed. Naruto dodged to the side as Mira slammed her fist into the ground, making a small crater. Mira, he was cut off when she punched him in the stomach, knocking wind out of him by the force of the punch. After the punch landed, he was then slammed into the ground hard. He grunted as he saw Mira about to punch him again. He rolled out the way just for her to miss. He quickly stood up and punched her in the face, making her stunned, but quickly recovered and headbutted Naruto in the face, making him a bit dazed. Mira saw her chance and casted a spell, Soul Extinctor. She shouted as she fires a large black-purple beam at point blank at Naruto. Naruto saw the attack as he widens his eyes. Was he going to die here by the hands of the girl that he has a crush on for over a year now? He never even get the chance to prove to everyone that he wasn't weak. He watched his life flash before his eyes, all the good times he had with his Gigi, and later met Bachan, Kishinane, and Levy-chan along the way until it showed his family. And oh, he was not going to die here. He has a promise to keep and a family to see again. He is not dying here. Time seemed slow as Naruto's Sharingan glowed as the three tomos started spinning, combining in a 3-point shuriken. I know how the Manjikyu works. You have to kill your closest friend or see the one you care or love die. Kamui! He exclaimed as everything flashed bright. Boom! The entire area was consumed in a massive explosion along with Mira and Naruto in the blast radius. Once the smoke began to diminish, a figure soon came into view, showing Mira Jane Strauss back to normal. She looked around for Naruto until she started hearing coughing sounds close by. She walked towards it. Soon the cough was getting louder and closer. She then saw a figure that's on the ground leaning on the tree holding his right side. Soon the figure showed himself to be Naruto, who was battered and heavily bleeding on his now missing right arm. He looked up to see Mary Jane looking at him with soulless sapphire eyes. Naruto glared back with his now awakened Manjikyu. Tell me, why are you doing this, Strauss? He said coldly as Mira flinched at the tone but answered nonetheless. Why? You should know, since you are the main reason for that cause, she shouted as Naruto looked at her in anger as his Sharingan grew more brighter than before. How is this my fault? He exclaimed as Mira grabbed him by the shirt as they were face to face glaring at each other. Everything, you coming into this mission, getting in my way and my siblings' way. We would have been fine if you haven't come along, then Lisanna would still be alive, she shouted as she found herself punched in the face by Naruto's only arm. She fell into the ground as Naruto grabbed her by the shirt, not caring if her large assets are showing or his missing right arm continued to bleed heavily. You fucking idiot, I tried to help you. And your siblings. If I hadn't come along, then Lisanna wouldn't have been killed, then none of this would have happened, he shouted back as he suddenly screamed as Mira punched him in his severed limb. He fell on the floor holding his wound, trying to stop the bleeding as his vision began to get blurry. He then looked up at Mira, who was towering over him. You're right, none of this would have happened, but it did, and now she's gone, and she is never coming back, she said as tears fall down. She then hardened her eyes at Naruto. I am going to leave you here, and I am taking Elfman with me. You can die here as you don't deserve to live, she said as she began to leave, but stopped and looked at Naruto one last time. Even if you do manage to survive, don't bother coming back to Fairy Tail. If you do, I will kill you because my sister's death is on your hands, she said as Naruto stayed on the ground holding his wound as she disappeared into the woods. Fairy Tail sat Ost Tsuyoku Mizamura Tamashi. I play this part in 154, that's the best one for this scene. After she was gone, Naruto sat up to tear a piece of his shirt to wrap it around his severed wound. After patching himself up, he then crawled backwards towards the tree. Once making it, he leaned on it, catching his breath as he was resting. He then looked towards the direction where Mira Jane had taken, only to see her already in the air holding Elfman with his arm wrapped around her shoulder, flying towards Magnolia. Naruto watched the scene as tears were falling down from his eyes. I will never forget this, Strauss, I promise you this. He lowered his head as hair shadowed his eyes as he gritted his teeth as tears continued to fall. I will never forgive you, Mira Jane. He screamed at the heavens as he falls on the ground holding his arm in pain as darkness claimed him due to the amount of pain. As Naruto fell unconscious, nobody have noticed a large swirling vortex in the night sky with 3 glowing crimson eyes stared down at the scene, laughing darkly. Flashback end. Both women shadowed their eyes as tears fall from their face at his story and grew some anger towards the white-haired mage. I will never forgive her for this as long as I live, and is because of her that Kushina Levy tightened her hold on Ryu as she cried on his head. And to think I pitied her for the loss of her sister, said poor Lyusuka as she shakes her head. Naruto looked at them and sighs and began to speak, getting their attention. It was a very tragic day for me, but there is nothing we can do. The real challenge is how we deal with it, but that doesn't matter to me now. What really matters to me is that I get to see you again, he said as he smiled at Levy and poor Lyusuka. They smile in return, already forgotten their anger. Besides, this is between me and her alone and no one else, he said while they nodded, understanding his decision. But that still doesn't make any reason for you not coming back for what she said, is there? Said Levy as Naruto lowered his head, shadowing his eyes with his hair. No, during the time I was unconscious I was then later saved by our father, he said as they both looked at him in confusion. Your father? Said Levy. That's right, his name is Ashura. He was the one who found me when I was unconscious on that mountain, he said as he tells them his story on how he met Ashura. Flashback. Unknown cave somewhere in the mountains. Naruto grunted as he woke up in a dark cave just outside the snowstorm. He scratched the back of his head but then realized that he wasn't scratching his head with his left arm. He quickly looked at his right and jumped in fright as he got a good look at it. The arm that was destroyed by Mira was replaced by a light blue glowing arm with full black reptilian scales that covered the entire arm except the fingers and the back of his hand, Nero's Devil Bringer. Naruto examined new right arm but also was surprised to see that his new arm was spreading black reptilian scales on right half of his body. Avatar Grey Full Buster. I see you have awakened? Said a deep demonic voice, startling him. Who are you? Show yourself. That way I can kick you ass, he shouted, awakening his Sharingan, never noticing that instead of its usual red irises with black tomos were replaced by light photon blue with white tomos. The voice chuckled a little but answered nonetheless. It would be best if I present myself to you first, the voice said as the entire cave began to shake as Naruto tried to keep his balance, but a massive foot stomp close to him, making him backflip away, getting himself some distance. Once Naruto gathered enough distance, he looked at the foot and made his way up as his eyes widened at the being who stood before him. The creature raised his hand. Do not be afraid of me, human. My name is Ashura the Photon Dragon, said the now named Ashura. My name is Naruto Uchiha, he said. It's nice to meet you, Naruto. Hieda nodded at him. Likewise, so where are we anyways? He said as he looked around. We're in a cave that I found somewhere in the mountains in order to avoid the snow storm. You're lucky that I found you, if not, well, you wouldn't even be here talking to me, he said as Naruto shivered at that but then looked at the dragon. Thank you for saving me and thank you for the arm Oswell, he said in gratitude as Asura waved him off. Think nothing of it, I did what I thought was right, but tell me, Naruto, what were you doing in the mountains, and how did you receive that kind of injury to your arm? He asked as Naruto gritted his teeth, remembering what happened while not realizing two black horns were coming out on both sides of his head, Ichigo's Vasto Lord horns pointing up, and his eyes changed one purple iris while the other stayed the same photon blue and releasing a light blue/purple aura that surprised Asura as he narrowed his eyes at scene in front of him. Interesting, it appears not only did the magic transfer work, but instead of him gaining my demon magic he also gained some of my dragon magic. And what's worse, his new arm altered his DNA, making him a half-human/half-demon and dragon. Oswell, that's not good at all. He won't be able to control himself, and will hurt others as he will be hunted down and treated as a demon. I will have no other choice but to take him with me to harness his new powers, he thought as he snaps out of it when Naruto calmed down and explained his story. 5 minutes later. And then I saw her take Elfman and flew straight back to Fairy Tail, and that was the time I fell unconscious due to the amount of pain I received. He finished explaining his story as Asura shook his head. I see, but what about your family? They must be worried about you, he asked as Naruto explained to him about his treatment he had in his family, and the guild, and that the only family he has are Kushina, Bachan, Levy-chan, and then also told about his grandfather who had passed a year ago. As Naruto told him about his treatment, as suddenly Asura released an unimaginable amount of power that shook the entire mountain as Naruto struggled to keep his balance. Asura saw what he was doing and eased his power. Forgive me, I never in my life I have seen a family that would treat their own like that. What fools every one of them, and my condolences to your grandfather, he was a good man, he said while at the same time Naruto nods. Thanks, that means a lot to me, really, he said as he then looked outside to see the storm wasn't stopping anytime soon. He sighed as he then looked back at Asura. Once the storm diminish I will be on my way. Thanks for what you did for me, Asura, he said while heading to the spot he woke up and deciding to go to sleep. Naruto, Asura said, making Naruto stop and look at him. There is something I need to tell you, he said, getting his full attention. When I found you, you were slowly dying, he said, shocking Naruto. The only way that I could save you is if I transfer my demon magic into you in order for it to save you, but not only healed you but it also fixed whatever disease you had that prevented for you to use magic, he explained as Naruto looked at his hands with wide eyes and looked back at Asura. Why you mean I can now use magic? He said as Asura nodded his head as Naruto fell on his knees as tears fall from his eyes. Arigato. Like I said before, think nothing of it, but that's not all, he said as Naruto got up, wiping his tears as he looked at Asura. I don't know how to tell you this, as not only do you now have magic, but you now wield both my devil and dragon slayer magic, and also your new arm kinda Ultioridiordiana Turninge Winto Atomonic Dragon Hybrid, he said so fast that Naruto looks at him in confusion. Can you repeat that? I could have sworn that you just said that my new arm tuned me into a demonic dragon hybrid, he said as Asura nodded his head, making Naruto confirm that what he said was true. What? He shouted while putting both his hands on his head, but then felt his horns as he screamed even louder. Asura looked at the scene in amusement. Naruto, I have a proposition for you, he said, getting his attention. And that would be? He asked as Asura turned serious. I would like for you to train under me, for you to control and harness your new powers, he said as Naruto looked at him in a surprised expression. You're willing to train me? He stuttered as Asura nodded his head. Why? Because I see you it in your eyes as you try to prove others you aren't weak as they thought you were. You told me of your grandfather's letter that he believed that you will go far beyond that even he could not reach. What if I told you that I am the one that will help you reach that beyond? What do you say, Naruto Uchiha? Will you be willing to train under me to prove those wrong and to protect those you love from harm's way? Will you be willing to go beyond that which your grandfather believed in? He said while Naruto thought about his grandfather, his sister Kushina, Bachan, Levy-chan. He now has the power to achieve his goal, the power to protect those he cherished most, and the only way to achieve that is the one that is standing in front of him. Naruto looked at Ashiana with a serious expression as he deactivated his Sharingan, showing his photon dragonic eyes full of determination. When do we begin? He said as Ashiana grinned, showing his razor-sharp fangs as his body was covered in blue aura. We begin now, he exclaimed while he and Naruto charged at one another. Flashback end. Levy and poorly Yusuke looked at him, while he released two of his black horns. Right eye iris turned from light blue to light purple with black scales spreading all the way to his right eye like a scar to prove to them to what his father said was true. After I began my training, father took me to his home where I met my mother Nova and met this little asshole. He said the last part, while pointing his finger at Ryu, who giving him the finger. It took us 3.5 years to complete our training and went our way as hired mercenaries for the king, hunting down demons or father's demon lord brethren, he said, and sees Levy got up, as she touched his horns gently, then looked at Naruto. So this was the main reason why you didn't want to come back? She asked, but was taken by surprise when he looked the other way, shadowing his eyes as a single drop of tear fell from his eye. Yes, I was afraid that both you and Bachan will fear, hate, and abandon me. Slap! Poorly Yusuke and Ryu widened their eyes in surprise when they saw Levy slap Naruto, who had a red mark on his right cheek. He looked at Levy, who was shadowing her eyes as tears were falling from them. Do you really think so lowly of us? She said as she hugged his head, burying his face between into her developing chest. Don't you dare think this will ever change us on how we think of you. You're still Naruto Uchiha, our Naruto, my Naruto. No matter what you become, we still care and love you no matter what. She said the last part while blushing, while Naruto widened his eyes as he slowly wrapped his arms around her waist, hugging her. She smiled as she released him from her hold, lowering herself as she is face to face with Naruto. See, there is nothing to be afraid of now. Naruto smiled a little, nodding his head. Thank you, Levy-chan, this is just what I needed. No problem, he nodded. Then looked at the clock, knowing it's already past 10. It's getting late, want me to take you home? He said as Levy looked at him, saddened, thinking he will leaving and never seeing him again. You know, ever since I've been gone I still paid rent for my grandfather's house, he said, making her smile. Yeah, it means I will be living in Magnolia, he said, making her hug him. While poorly Yusuke smiled at the scene, Naruto looked at his brother, who was sleeping on the couch. Will Ryu stay here? I will be back, he said, making Ryu raise his tiny arms at him. Naruto shook his head at his brother, lazy bum. He then looked back at Levy. Ready? She nodded, as she and Naruto left poorly Yusuke home towards Fairy Hills. Song end. Next day at Fairy Tail, Naruto, Ryu and Levy were going towards the cabin at the back for now while the guild was in construction. Once they made it inside, everyone in Fairy Tail looked at the three. Once they saw both Naruto and Ryu, everyone took out their weapons and raised their magic towards them. Both Ryu and Naruto shrugged of their killer intent like it was nothing. They faced much more stronger being, and those beings are the demon lords. The two saw Makarov walking towards them with a serious expression. Naruto looked to Levy, letting her know to find Lucy and find them a spot to sit. She looked at them worried, but after what he told them of his story and for what he becomes, she understood and left to find Lucy. Naruto and Ryu looked at Levy until they cannot see her. They turned back towards Makarov. Everyone was waiting for one of them to say or make the first move. You have a lot of nerve showing your face after what happened yesterday, Makarov said as he released a bit of power, as everyone in the guild was sweating bullets except for some of them, Minato, Mikoto, and a young man who is sitting by himself, who is in his mid or early 20s. Standing at 6 feet 3 inches, sharp onyx eyes, light skin color, blonde spike hair with spiky headphones, a scar in his right eye. Solid, lean, built as a super middleweight, which is 166 or 167 in boxing. Perfect for durability, reflex, speed, endurance, strength, and stamina like Naruto. He's wearing a purple button dress shirt with black leather pants with male's black dress shoes and a black leather coat on his shoulders. This person was Laxus Dreyer, Makarov's grandson. Both Naruto, Ryu weren't even faced by the power that Makarov was showing, and so he returned the favor twice the power, making everything around them dense and a little hard to breathe. I'm impressed that you're still alive and standing after you took my attack straight to the face. Even though my attack was at 15 to 20% of its true strength, but still I should congratulate you, Dreyer, he said as everyone stared at him in shock. Was he really trying to kill their master? Makarov narrowed his eyes even more at Naruto. So you really were trying to kill me? He asked as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Who knows, I could have or couldn't, depends on my mood I was having yesterday, he said as he poked his ear with his pinky finger lazily. Everyone tensed at his words except for Laxus, who just scoffed at him. Makarov closed his eyes, shaking his head at him as he opened them again. You have fallen so low, Naruto. Your parents and your sister would be ashamed for what you have become, he said. Naruto chuckled a little, then burst out laughing. Oh man, that was a good one. I haven't laughed like that since the time Ryu killed that demon named Griffin by cutting off his head while his corpse was running around like a headless chicken. Oh man, good times, he said as he then turned serious. But jokes aside, if you're talking about the Namikes, then you are surely mistaken. I already have a family, but the ones you speak of are nothing to me, as they have lost that right, he said as Minato, Mikoto and Kagura were hurt by his words. Besides, you say I may have fallen low, but it is the necessary way of ensuring that Earthland and the people of Fiori stays safe from demons, and people like Jose Porla and the followers of Zera from harming the innocents. I have 2 goals to accomplish, and I will see to it that it becomes a reality. Even if it means we become the most heated, feared beings in all of Earthland and Fiori, to ensure that humanity, and the innocents that cannot defend themselves, are away from harm, then so be it, he said. Makarov and everyone in Fairy Tail looks at the brothers like they were crazy, until they heard someone slam their hands on the tables in the back of the room. Everyone looked at the back to see Natsu, who has bandages around his stomach, arms, cheeks, forehead, looking at Naruto. Are you crazy, Naruto? You're talking about an army of demons and dark mages here. It's just you and your brother. You guys are just gonna get yourselves killed, he exclaimed as Urza, Gray, Kagura, Mikoto and Minato agreed with him. It doesn't matter to me as long as I accomplish my goals. I don't care for what happens to me. My sensei entrusted me to finish what his family began, and I will see to it that it ends once and for all. Even if we do get killed by them, we will just welcome death with a smile on our faces. Besides, he then takes out Yamato from its scabbard, making everyone wonder what he's planning. That is, until he slammed the blade to where his heart is, making the blood gush out from his chest, making everyone look at him in horror. I won't die that easily, he said as he takes out Yamato from his chest, shaking off the blood from its blade, sheathing it back to its scabbard. Everyone watched as his wounds heal. In an instant after healing, he then walked towards where Levy and Lucy are, while ignoring the looks he was receiving. Mikoto looked at her son in tears, as she now completely understands what Ashura meant now. Once he sat down on the table, Ryu flew off his head, landing on Lucy's lap, enjoying her rubbing his head. He growled in appreciation, making her giggle at how cute he is. While this was happening, Naruto smiled a little but didn't show it thanks to his high-collar shirt and scarf. He felt someone looking at him. He looked to his right to see Levy looking at him with a worried expression. He responded by holding her hand, squeezing it gently, as she gladly returned it by squeezing his. Naruto, don't scare me like that. I know that you're half you know, but I still can't help but worry. Still, please be careful. I just got you back and I don't want to lose you like I did with Nachan. You and Bachan are the only ones I have left, she said as he nodded understanding while bringing her closer to him, letting her lean against his arm with her head resting on his shoulder, enjoying the embrace with a small blush. While this was happening, Urza, Mirajane, Lucy and surprisingly Kagura are watching this scene in jealousy, when on the other side of the room Levy's ex-teammates Jet and Droy watched the scene in anger at the devil/dragon slayer. A few minutes later, Naruto and Levy and Lucy are having a small talk when suddenly they hear something break. Everyone in the entire basement turned to look at Urza, who was looking at Laxus in rage. I dare you to say that again, she yelled as she stood in front of Laxus. Fine, I will tell you straight out. We don't need weaklings in this guild, as you guys are a disgrace by getting beaten by Phantom Lord and especially that useless bitch, he said as he pointed at Levy, who then looked down, hurt by Laxus' words. He then looked towards Lucy as she flinched, waking up Ryu from his nap. Then there's you, the whore, this is all your fault. You are just as useless as that other BTCK. He was suddenly cut off when someone kicked at the side of his face with so much force you hear something popped. Everybody in the basement widened their eyes as they saw Naruto, who was the one that kicked Laxus in the face. Laxus got up to his feet, rubbing the side of his face from the kick he just received. After he downed the pain, he looked towards at Naruto, who is just looking at Laxus right in the eyes. So you're the one who killed Jose, you're pretty fast, I'm impressed. But he vanished by a flash of lightning as he then appeared behind Naruto with his fist cocked back that was covered in lightning. I'm faster. He threw the punch as Naruto was engulfed by it, making an explosion inside the basement. Everyone inside couldn't see as the entire place was up in smoke. Levy and Lucy were coughing because of the smoke, but a few seconds of regaining their breathing, they both looked back at Naruto worriedly. Naruto. Levy exclaimed as everyone waited for the smoke to diminish as they all see a figure in the smoke showing that it was Laxus who is smirking thinking he had already won. He straightened himself and began to leave. He weakling to think he was the one that beat a wizard saint, what a joke. Suddenly the entire room became dense as everyone began to sweat, even Laxus. He quickly turned back to where Naruto was and just in time to see the smoke lessen as a shadowy figure was coming into view. Bleach O's storm center extended. Impressive, I actually felt something there. The smoke died down to show Naruto, who had his arms crossed and his hair shadowing his eyes, still standing without a single scratch. Everyone in the entire room looked at him in fear and awe, while Levy, who was walking slowly towards him, making sure he was alright. Naruto-kun, are you okay? She said as he looked towards her, making her gasp as she saw his eyes had changed. His eyes are no longer dragonic eyes as were replaced with a light bluish Skara eyes with white ripple-like patterns around his eyeball. Imagine Madara's Rinnegan but light blue with white ripple patterns. You okay, Levy-chan? He asked as she pointed, his eyes shaken at how weird they looked. Why your eyes tt they vc changed. She stuttered while he remembered taking her home, then came back and asked Bachan to implant Gigi's eyes. Oh yeah, forgot I took you home. Well, to explain in a short version rather than the long one, these eyes are called Rinnegan. Gigi called it in one of his scrolls he left for me in his office after he passed to better understand its power, although it's my first time using it, but I just wanted to test it out, he explained as he changed his eyes back to normal, making her nod dumbly. How are you still standing? That attack was a direct hit, demanded Laxus while Naruto ignored him and told Levy to go back. She hesitated at first but complied. She knew Naruto was strong, but she just doesn't know just how strong he is now, as he now wields his grandfather's eyes now. Naruto watched Levy leave, then looked back at Laxus, who was waiting for his answer. But instead he moved to his fighting stance that surprised his former family, since they knew that fighting stance was once used by Madara Uchiha, the Uchiha intercepting fist. Laxus watched this as he knew what this meant. He smirked maniacally as a golden aura with lightning was sparking all around his body. As Laxus' body was covered in golden aura, Naruto's eyes grew brighter as his body was covered in light bluish aura with blue ember-like particles floating all around him. Everyone was dead silent as they watched one of their S-rank mage, who is maybe the strongest right now, while Gildarts is doing the 10-year quest mission, going against probably one of the most dangerous, deadliest mages in Fiori. While this happened, Minato, Mikoto, Kagura and her teammates looked at the scene in worried faces, while the two Strauss siblings watched in a nervous expression. Suddenly they hear a clang sound as both fighters met in the center in pure speed and entered an HTHC, hand-to-hand combat. Laxus threw an electrified punch at Naruto, who slapped it away and countered by throwing a kick towards the liver, but Laxus dodged it by teleporting behind him, throwing a roundhouse, but Naruto ducked, making the kick miss. He quickly turned around, throwing an uppercut at Laxus, who blocked by crossing both his arms in AX shape. Naruto took the chance as he appeared behind Laxus, grabbing him by the waist, lifting him off his feet, delivering a German suplex into the ground. Before Laxus could touch the ground, he disappeared, leaving a few sparks appearing at the other side of the room. As Naruto saw this, he caught himself by doing a handstand followed by a few backflips, making him land perfectly at the other side. Both fighters looked at each other as Laxus, who is still smirking while Naruto looked calm and stoic. Laxus closed his eyes and shook his head in disappointed. If this is the best you can do, then you are the same as the rest, you're just another weakling. He opened his eyes only for them to widen as Naruto was in front of him, delivering a left hook to the liver, making Laxus grunt. But Naruto wasn't finished after the left hook. He threw a 1-2 combination to the face after that, straight right. His left fist was covered in a bluish aura forming into a dragon-like hand. Mitsuko Ryu Adamantine Ken. Photon Dragon's Adamantine Fist. He punched Laxus in the chest with so much force it made small fist-size hole at the back of his dress shirt and coat, sending Laxus flying out the cabin, taking the fight outside. If that didn't make sense, then look up when Naruto's Rasengan made a giant hole thanks to the impact of it, or his wind chakra at the water tower that made Sasuke jealous. They have it in videos, so look it up. Everyone in the basement/cabin ran outside to continue to see the fight. Once there, they see Naruto on the clear open field with his arms crossed, while Laxus got up, wiping the blood off his lip. Laxus looked at his hand he used to wipe the blood with, clenching it in anger. He looked back at Naruto, who waited for him to continue the fight. You're more powerful than I give you credit for. You might just give Gildarts a run for his money, but I think it's time for us to stop holding back, don't you think? he said while Naruto raised the eyebrow at him. You want to go all out? Isn't that a bit too early, don't you think? Yes it is, but I'd rather go all out since it's been a while I let loose, since there is nothing but weaklings in this guild, so what do you say? He asked while Naruto gave him the sign to go first. He tsk but complied nonetheless. Laxus threw his coat off to the side as lightning was flowing around his body. His eyes became blank, teeth became canine sharp, his hair became more spikier, and finally his body was growing, making his muscles more build and bulkier like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, destroying his purple button dress shirt showing upper body with golden dragon scales on both sides. When his transformation was complete, his entire body was covered in lightning, making him the Lightning Dragon Slayer. Everyone was in shock except Makarov, since he knew his grandson was transplanted with a lightning dragon lacrima in his body and was one of the reasons he excommunicated his son Ivan out of the guild. Laxus looked at Naruto as he pointed at him. Your turn, he said menacingly. Everyone looked at Naruto, who started to take off his scarf and shirt, showing as he is well built like Natsu is but more solid, making the ones that have a crush on him blush scarlet red but suddenly lose it when everyone got a good look at him without his shirt. In Naruto's chest it shows 4 long claw mark scar and 2 centimeters deep across his chest. Mira looked at her brother, who was looking down, remembering what happened that day. Then they also see his entire right side of his body is covered in black reptilian-like scales that reach to the right side of his neck, his right chest and abs. Naruto clenched both his fists as his eyes glow more brighter. Teeth became sharp canines, while at the same time a light blue aura engulfed his entire body as black reptilian scales with blue vein-like cracks started to appear on both sides of his face, neck, chest and left arm. Like Rouge, but Naruto's scales are real, making him a first-generation dragon slayer. Koshi Darebu. Photon drive, he said as blue/white aura surrounded his entire body. The entire ground started to crumble as everyone panicked except some, as blue flames burst from the ground, creating a large column consuming him. Once the flames died down, the audience and Laxus widened their eyes at his appearance. Standing in front of them was Naruto, with his hair color changed from black to silver-white as his hair grew more and spikier, with both bangs on the sides of his face grew past his chin while staying the same hairstyle. His reptilian scales stayed the same, but his devil bringer changed. Instead of his blue glowing arm with normal black scales was replaced into a full black scale armor with a shoulder guard, spike armor on the forearm with light blue outlines on it, while his hand turned into a dragon humanoid one with black razor-sharp claws. Then they looked at his eyes as his entire white scara color was replaced with black ones, while his dragonic eyes stayed the same but more fiercer. Doragon Fosu! Dragon Force! He said, releasing an insane amount of magic as it turned into large dragon-like wings on his back like Ashura's. Natsu widens his eyes at Naruto, since he is a dragon slayer himself, but a dragon slayer who has yet to completed her training. But seeing Naruto in it made him know that he far behind to that level, and that made him want to train more than ever before, but it also made him want to fight Naruto even more. Doragon Fosu? Laxus repeated the name, making him smirked as he took a deep breath with blue lightning coming out of it, making Naruto know what Laxus was doing but stood his ground. Raryu no Hoko! Lightning Dragon's Roar! He shouted, firing a highly destructive golden beam with blue lightning surrounding it. The roar headed straight for Naruto, who was ignoring everyone's shouts as he watching the stream approach. As the roar was close, he slammed his fist into the ground, creating a large dome surrounding him. Koshi Ryu no Aura Q! Photon Dragon's Aura Sphere! He shouted as the roar made contact, creating a massive explosion as everyone watched in worry for the Raven Head Wellsome, that is. Once the smoke started to lessen, they then saw something glowing in the center. Once the smoke diminished, showing Naruto on one knee with his fist in the ground surrounded in a large dome. Naruto dismissed the sphere as he stood up and saw Laxus running towards him. He followed suit as both fighters met in the center, throwing punched and kicks at each other who either blocked or received it. Naruto threw a 1-2 combination followed by a left and right hook to the abdomen and finishing it with a double lift kick. Laxus blocked the first 2 hits but was not fast enough for the 2, knocking the wind out of him. Dropping his guard down as he suddenly felt a kick to the stomach and chin, knocking him off his feet a few inches in the air. Naruto made his chance and dashed towards Laxus, delivering a right backhand fist to his side abdomen. As Laxus leaned to the side, that's been punched, making him shout in pain. Naruto wasn't finished as he delivered a devastating spinning flare kick on Laxus' left trapezius, slamming him face first into the ground, creating a small crater. The spinning flare kick got that from Tekken 4 badass game right there. I miss my PS2, crying face. Everyone cringed at the scene. That had to hurt. Naruto backflipped away, making sure Laxus doesn't try anything. Suddenly lightning starts to striking down from above around Laxus as one of them was about to hit the ground, only for Laxus to grab it as he slowly got up on his feet, while still holding the bolt. Once on his feet he took a bite out of it, surprising everyone except Naruto, Ryu, and Natsu since they used Dragon Slayer magic. After he finished it, his entire body was healed instantly from the brutal attacks he received, then looked back at Naruto smirking like a psychopath. Ready for round 2. He said as he and Naruto charged once again in blurs, going faster than before. They both met in the center, punching each other in the face, making their heads push back by the force. Both quickly recovered as Laxus launched a 3-hit combination with a left, right hooks and a straight left to the face. Naruto blocked the 2 first hits but didn't block the last hit. He quickly recovered and threw a fast left uppercut, making Laxus stagger as Naruto grabbed him by the back the neck with both hands, delivering a devastating right knee to the face. After the right knee, Naruto then double kick him, giving him and his opponent some space. Laxus recovered from the hit, disappearing in a flash of lightning, appearing behind Naruto. Raryu and no Tekken. Lightning Dragon's Iron Fist. Naruto quickly turned, casting a spell, Mitsuko Ryu Adamantine Ken. Everyone watched in slow motion as both attacks made contact, creating a large shockwave of blue and gold energy flying everywhere and pushing everyone back from the blast. Both Naruto and Laxus jumped back and continued to fight in close combat again. Laxus fired a large golden fist made out of lightning heading straight at Naruto. Raryu no Hoken. Lightning Dragon's Breakdown Fist. Naruto countered it with his attack Koshi Ryu no Saiga. Photon Dragon's Crushing Fang. He slashed in a claw-like fashion, canceling out Laxus' Hoken. Laxus growled as he raised both his hand in the air, gathering a large amount of lightning, creating a massive spear composed of lightning. Raryu Hotenjiki. Lightning Dragon's Heavenward Halberd. He then threw the massive spear while Naruto raised both his hands, catching the massive spear, sending him skidding back. He grunted as he managed to stop the lightning spear. He looks at Laxus, who looked at him with wide eyes. He then smirks darkly, adding his own magic into it. The spear changed from lightning yellow to light blue photon with white outline. Koshi Ryu Hotenjiki. Photon Dragon's Heavenward Halberd. He threw the spear at Laxus, who disappeared in a flash of lightning, dodging the spear that was once his. The spear made contact to one of the trees, creating a large explosion, leaving a large crater in its wake. Everyone looked at the aftermath of Naruto's attack, as Laxus appeared in front of Naruto, continuing their battle. To Mary Jane and the others, Mera watched the fight as she placed her hands on her chest, worried for Naruto, while ignoring her other souls telling her to claim him. Elfman, on the other hand, was sweating bullets as if he was watching two monsters fighting to see who was alpha. While they were watching, Urza, Natsu and Gray watched the fight along with Kagura and Mikoto next to them. "This is insane. Naruto is actually beating the crap out of Laxus," said Natsu, wanting to get into the action. "Yeah, but I have bad feeling that this isn't Naruto's full power," said Gray, analyzing the fight. "I agree, you Gray." She was cut off when she cringed as she saw Naruto grabbed Laxus' right wrist, pulling him forward and thrust his right fist, pushing Laxus' head back. As Naruto held that pose, he jumped and did a 360 spins, slamming Laxus face first into the ground. Jin Kazama's tidal wave. She was glad he didn't do it to her. "Ouch. Ka-chan, there is something that's been bothering me," she said as Mikoto looked at her daughter. "What is it, honey? Do you ever remember why we ignored Oni-chan?" she asked as Mikoto frowned and shook her head. "No, I don't. It's strange. When he was born, me and your father were happy when we had him, even when the doctor told us he couldn't do any magic, but we still loved him. But when we had you, we completely forgot about him, and I don't even remember why," she explained as Mikoto and Kagura looked at one another as they began to think of the reason, but suddenly were cut off and looked back at the fight with Levy, Lucy and Ryu. Levy was looking at the fight in a worried expression. She then felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to look only to see Lucy holding Ryu in one arm. "You're worried about him, huh?" she said as Levy nodded her head in return. "Don't worry, he'll win just like he always does," she said confidently as Levy nodded, knowing her friend said was right. "Wow, you girls sure care about Naruto a lot." Ryu smirked devilishly. "Is it by any chance that Yu Liliai Kiki Hi him?" he said, only to find himself sent flying in the sky by Lucy and Levy, who both had their fists raised up in the air. Ah! I regret nothing, he exclaimed as he disappeared into the sunny sky, making a ding sound. Both girls humphed while they had a little tint of pink on their cheeks as they dusted their hands like they took out the trash. Great, just what we need, another happy, but instead of a cat it's a dragon, said Lucy, annoyed, while Levy nodded, agreeing with her friend. They heard an explosion from behind. They both quickly turned back to see Naruto slamming a palm strike onto Laxus' chest, sending him flying through 8 trees and a few rocks until crashing into a large boulder, stopping him in his tracks. The ground began to tremble as Laxus burst out from the boulder, sending a dragonic roar at Naruto, who also roared back. They both gathered a large amount of ether nano into their bodies, as Naruto's being photon blue, while Laxus is golden yellow. Once both gathered enough, they fired their attacks at the same time. Koshi Ryu no Hoko, Photon Dragon's Roar, firing a destructive blazing photon beam with white outline, black lightning surrounding it. Raryu no Hoko, Lightning Dragon's Roar, firing a also destructive golden beam with blue lightning around it. Both attacks met in the center of the field, creating a shockwave that pushed everyone besides the 2 fighters back. Everyone recovered and looked towards the power struggle as both dragon slayers fight for dominance, as neither was willing to give up. With Minato and Makarov, Master, this is getting out of hand. If this keeps up, everything around here will be destroyed, exclaimed Minato as he looked towards his master, who was looking at the fight. Master, he shouted again. He's holding back, he said as Minato looked at him in confusion. What are talking about, Master? Who's holding back? Naruto, he said as Minato eyes widened at the declaration. Master, how can you be so sure that Naruto is holding back? It looks to me that Laxus and him are in the same level, he said as Makarov shook his head. That's where you are wrong, my boy. I did my research on dragon slayers. When one enters dragon force, their power is increased dramatically, and so is their prowess, stamina, strength, speed, endurance, durability, and reflex. They have the power compatible to which a real dragon can do, and that is to utterly destroy everything. If I remember correctly the discussion we had by the encounter you had with Ashiana, that none of you couldn't penetrate his scales or even lay a scratch on him, that he ultimately destroyed you. Even you said so yourself that his sons can with just their dragon roar. Imagine the training those two went through to achieve that kind of power in such a short amount of time in a young age. That is not your son anymore. Minato standing in front of us is something else, Makarov explained as Minato widened his eyes and looked at Naruto and then took a deep breath. He looked back at his master. So what do we do? He said as Makarov looked at him. Let them fight. Minato nodded as they looked back at the fight. Back in the fight, Naruto was holding Laxus' attack in place. He then added more power, pushing the Lightning Dragon Slayer's attack bit by bit. Laxus saw this and added more power to his attack, making them both even again. Naruto saw what Laxus did. He was impressed to say the least, but now is the time for him pay back for what he said to Levy and Lucy. He added even more power into his roar, overpowering Laxus's, making him roll out the way. Laxus watched as Naruto's attack passed right through his, heading straight into the forest, creating a large-sized central sphere dome, sending a shockwave as everyone covered their face and stood their ground. If you're wondering the size, it's not that big like destroying the city now. That is just overkill. It's more like the size of Naruto's first time using the Raisin Shuriken on Kakazu in Shippuden. As the wind died down, everyone uncovered their eyes, then looked towards the forest. The forest lost most of the trees, but in the center was a large crater. Everyone looked towards Naruto as he summoned his wings as he flew straight into the sky. As Naruto flew higher, he finally stopped just above the clouds. He turned his sights at the sun, gathering its light atmosphere into his mouth. Once he gathered enough, he released a massive amount of magic as his eyes turned white blank, while a white sphere the size of a basketball forming in front of his mouth. Metsuryu Oji. Hakai no Koshi Basudo Satoramu. Dragon Slayer's Secret Arts. Photon burst stream of destruction. He shouted as he fired a massive blue blazing photon stream of pure destruction with white lightning surrounding it, headed straight for Laxus, who was staring at the attack in fear. Everyone ran as they watched the attack getting closer. Makarov then looked at Minato. Mina on it. Hirishin, he teleported in front of Laxus, gathering his magic, casting a spell as black runes burst from the seal, forming into a barrier. Jikuken Kekai. Flying Thunder God. Guiding Thunder. He watched as the stream came in contact with Jikuken, as everyone watched in amazement as Naruto's attack was being absorbed into the seal. Once the stream was completely absorbed, Minato used most of his magic sending the blast towards the sky. Boom! Everyone in Fairy Tail looked in the sky while Naruto looked to his left, to see a massive blue dome sphere appear in the sky, rotating, increasing its size, pushing the clouds of its way. The massive sphere stopped increasing/rotating as it begins to shrink its size until it was gone. Everyone looked at the clear blue sky as not a single cloud was covering half of Magnolia. Minato fell to his knees, tired, breathing heavily, and sweat was falling down from his face. He looked to his left to see Mikoto, and Kagura ran to him, making sure he was okay. Laxus fell to his knees as his Dragon Slayer mode faded while still looking at the clear sky. Everyone sighed in relief. The worst had come to an end. They turned their direction at Naruto, as he was still in the air with his arms crossed, looking at them in boredom. Song end. Natsu pointed at him. "You asshole, you could have killed us," he exclaimed as everyone agreed with him. Naruto looked at them as he uncrossed his arms, descending towards the ground. Natsu, Gray, Urza, Kagura and the others got ready in case he attacks. Once he touched the ground, his dragon force faded as he walked towards where his shirt and scarf is and putting them on. Everyone watched as Naruto finished wearing his clothes. He then made his way towards Levy and Lucy. Everyone yelled at Levy, Lucy to run, but they didn't listen. Once Naruto was close to them, he stopped blinking a few times. Where's Ryu?" he asked as everyone looked at him, acting like nothing happened. Yeah, about that," said Lucy as Naruto felt something on his head. He looked up to see Ryu looking at the girls in playful glare while they chuckled nervously. "I see, he said something annoying to you, didn't he?" he said, watching them nod. He then laid his hand on top of Levy's head, making them look at him as he smiled at them. "It's good to know that I'm not the only one who does," he said as he felt Ryu bit him on the head, making him shout in pain. He then grabbed Ryu's head, slamming him to the ground, and began stomping him multiple times as Ryu then tackled him. Everyone looked at the scene with wide eyes, with their jaws on the ground as they watched both brothers fight in a comedic dust cloud. As the dust cloud diminished, they see Naruto holding Ryu in a headlock while Ryu was biting him in the arm. "Do you give you fucking little shit?" exclaimed Naruto as he tightened his grip. "Never," Ryu shouted as he bit even harder. "Okay, that's enough," shouted Levy as she smacks both brothers in the head. Everyone watched as both Naruto, Ryu fall on the ground with big bumps on their head while steam rose out of it. They both rubbed their heads and looked at Levy. Was that really necessary, Levy-chan?" Naruto said as Levy crossed her arms to her growing chest and looked the other way. "Yes, if it can get you to stop horsing around with your brother, and it was also necessary when you almost killed us with that technique," she said as Lucy nodded her head, agreeing with her friend. "Oh, come on. I knew that Namikaze was gonna step in to save you all. I only did that to scare Laxus for bad-mouthing you and Lucy, so I taught him a lesson, okay?" he said as everyone looked at him with a surprised look. "Wait, you knew that Minato was gonna step in?" she said as Naruto nodded. "But how do you know that he has the right spell to counter yours?" she asked while Naruto stood up and looked at Minato disappearing in a black flash, appearing behind him with his back facing his, shocking everyone. "Because Minato is not the only Flash in all of Fiori," he said as he turned to walk away but was stopped when he felt Minato's hand on his shoulder. Naruto looked at him, knowing his former father wanted answers. Naruto didn't say anything as he reached for one of his pockets, taking out a scroll that had the name Flying Thunder God on it. He tossed the scroll to Minato, who caught it easily as he looked at it for a second, then looking back at Naruto. "When did you get this?" "I know, I had it sealed in my office with runes," he said as Naruto eyes changing his photon dragonic eyes to his photon manjikyu. "That's what I'm gonna call them, makes it easier. Same goes for Rinnegan, with the transplant of his grandfather's eyes. Naruto's manjikyu shuriken and Madara's 3 large tomo with circles at their tops overlapping each other at the bottoms and encircling the pupil, combining creating a new manjikyu. The shuriken changed into a 3 whirlwind shuriken with 3 tomo's circles on the shuriken. Imagine Kakashi's manjikyu with Madara's tomo's circles on it. Just type Kakashi Madara manjikyu in Google and look in the image, it's the first pick, making Naruto have all 3 of Madara, Itachi and Obito's manjikyu abilities. "The great wonders the manjikyu can do," he said as his manjikyu changed to his photon Rinnegan, surprising Minato. How did you have the Rinnegan? Itt thought on only why your Gigi grandfather had unlocked it. He stuttered as Naruto didn't answer him. Instead he raised his hand, aiming at him. Bansho Tenin. Universal Pull. An invincible force pulls Minato, sending flying towards Naruto, who grabs him by the throat. Everyone watched as Naruto was holding Minato by the throat. He got close to his ear and whispered, Minato widened his eyes as Naruto released him as he walked away. Mikoto ran towards him making sure he was alright. Minato, are you okay? She asked her husband, who nodded. What did he say to you? She said as Minato looked at her, then down and whispered something she couldn't hear. Minato, honey, you're scaring me. What did he say to you? He said that your father gave him his eyes, he said as Mikoto looked from Minato to Naruto, who still had then Rinnegan on, making her eyes widen. If you're thinking that I stole them, then no, Gigi gave me his eyes since he trusted me and Bachan, and we accepted, and to honor his wish, he explained as everyone gasped at this news, while he then threw her the note his grandfather made before his death as proof. She read the letter. After a while she finished reading the letter as she burst into tears as she held the letter close to her chest. "Tu-chan, forgive me," Naruto snorted as he then began to walk away with Ryu, who landed on his shoulder. But before he can get far he heard someone shout his name. He turned as everyone looked back and saw Laxus standing glaring at him. "We're not finished yet," he exclaimed while Naruto looked at him. "Yes, we are. The only reason why I fought you was because you disrespected Levy and Lucy, and I wanted to show you humility. So, tell me, Dreyer, how does it feel when there is someone stronger than you, huh? I bet it makes you mad that for the first time in your life that you are weak," he said as Laxus was about to charge when a massive hand got in his way. Everyone looked to see Makarov, who was the one who stopped Laxus' advance. "Nanny? Old man, move out the way, I have a score to settle with him." He demanded, only to be silenced when Makarov released a large amount of killing intent. "That's enough, Laxus. There is no reason for you to be fighting anymore," he said while looking at Naruto. "But for once I agree with the boy, it was about time someone put you in your place, Laxus," he said, shadowing his eyes while Laxus grit his teeth in rage as he vanished in a flash of lightning, but not before giving Naruto a glare that meant this isn't over. After Laxus left, Naruto looked at Makarov. "You need to have a serious talk with your grandson Dreyer," he said as Makarov lowered his killing intent and looked at Naruto. "Yes, I suppose so, but the boy is stubborn like I," he said. Naruto shook his head. "He is nothing but a fool, and yet I envy him," he said, catching everyone in Fairy Tail except Ryu by surprise. "He has a family that cares for him, and yet all he does is push them away, while he should feel lucky I had no one, as my own parents pretended I didn't exist. My sibling treated me like trash as others followed her mistreatment of me," he said as Minato, Mikoto, Kagura, Urza, Natsu, Gray, Happy, Mira and the rest looked at him saddened. "But I now have people who I cherish most, and that is all that matters to me," he said, and was then surprised when he sees a group of the king's rune knights coming. "Naruto, Uchiha and Ryu Drago, we have urgent news from the king," exclaimed one of the rune knights as he handed Naruto a scroll. He opened it, and read it, making his eyes wide, and closed the scroll, then looked at the knight. "Where was the demon last seen?" "It was last seen in the spooky forest heading straight for Bosco." Naruto nodded at the knight in gratitude as he then looked at Levy, who was looking at him in sadness and slight worry. "Don't worry, Levy, I'm not leaving. I will be back before you know it. Me and Ryu just gotta deal with this," he said as he handed her a blue necklace. DMC5 Virgil necklace. This is a communication lacrima with my Hyrician marker on it. Just channel some of you magic whenever you feel like talking or whenever you're in danger, okay? He said while she nodded, smiling at him. He then looked at Lucy and gives her a red one, surprising her. "Just in case, since you and your team are always getting into trouble," he said as she nodded in gratitude and was then by surprise, including everyone, as Naruto was being consumed by black flames. "Later, Levy-chan, Lucy," he said as he and Ryu were completely consumed by the flames disappearing from their sights. After they were gone, everyone was leaving in their own separate ways or continued to work on the guild, while both Levy and Lucy looked at their necklace and went back to the basement, not knowing that they were being watched by a certain blue-haired with a Russian-like hat and jealously. Love rivals.